Did you want
Good morning.
I gotta go volume. Let's see. Sorry for cursing.
I don't think in here.
We can have Pastor Johnny up to go ahead and open up in prayer.
Good morning, all. Good morning. Come on, let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. Come on, good morning. Let's give Rap a hand clap of praise this morning. I mean, when God opens the doors for so many different adventures and introduce us in so many different ways, He lay out a pattern of connection for us. And this Rap Coalition has been doing such a great job. Let's give them another hand clap this morning. Amen. Let's go into prayer this morning. The gracious Heavenly Father, Father God, first of all, we pause and say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to come together right now with different issues in our lives and different areas in our lives, but you have put us right in the right place again. And we just want to say thank you for allowing us to be a part of this great organization, allowing us to find our way here, allowing us to not be ashamed of what's going on in our lives, because you already know and you have already prepared an answer. So allow this program to go today just as you have planned it and ordained it. Let us connect so that we may be able to get the help that we're so desperately in need of. And again, we just want to say thank you for waking us up and guiding us to right where we need to be. And in the name of Jesus Christ, our Redeemer, amen and amen. Come on, give yourself a hand clap this morning. Come on, y'all wake up. Give yourself a hand clap this morning. Amen.
Mr. Johnny, Pastor Johnny, if you could just wait one moment. We also wanted to honor Pastor Johnny for all that he has done for RAP. Just waking up and getting out of his bed, to come here and to open us up, to close us out in prayer. He did not have to do that. Being a pastor is a full-time job, and it comes with, so many responsibilities. But he puts things on hold to come here and lend a hand to us and to support us. So we want to award you with this plaque of our appreciation. Woo! Thank you so much. And then we have a gift bag for you also. We honor you and we thank you for your support.
And that's the biggest cheerleader back there. The
Yes.
beautiful rap member, Sharon.
All right, well, thank you, Pastor Johnny, for opening up in prayer. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our relatives is Parents Empowering Families Conference, 18th Annual Conference. So thank you all so much for joining us this morning. So my name is Nelkasha Graves, and I work for the Texas Alliance of Child and Family Services, and been a member of the RAP Coalition since 2018. So again, we are so excited to see everyone, and thank you, and glad to see those of you that have been coming for years and years, and we see some new faces. So thank you all so much for coming out with us this morning.
All right, and then I'm going to be the co-host, the co-MC. My name is Terry Brent, and I am a part of RAP. I also have two grandchildren that I'm raising, 11 and 13, so this is so dear to my heart. And then I also work with an organization called MCH Family Outreach, who also supports grandparents as they're raising their grandchildren. So RAP has been around you guys for over 20 years. That's a long time. And so it feels like, you know, oh my God, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. But I know that I've been with them for a few years now. And so it's just an honor to be here. We welcome everyone again. And we want to let you know about RAP. The RAP Coalition is an informal group of professionals in the foster care, adoption, and kinship space who network to support mainly kinship families through various resources ranging from mental health to basic needs. You can also follow us and see us on Facebook at our RAP Facebook page to really stay informed about the kinship issues and then the connections that we have with other organizations in the community. On that Facebook page, there's just, you know, a slew of information and resources for kinship caregivers through RAP. And let's see. Oh, I already read that. Okay. All right, so the panels and topics here today reflect how we support families and who we collaborate with to do so. There are also great table vendors. Make sure that you go around and that you go to every table to see what they offer and how they can assist you and be a resource for you. As you can see, we are also going to, as you can see, we have a circus theme going on today. And Miss Nancy with Maximus is going to help me to translate. So we have a circus theme today.
Buenos días, tenemos un tema de circo en las mesas.
And we want you to judge every table and write down on the index cards on the table whose table you think is the best.
So queremos que pasen a todas las mesas y que busquen qué mesa es la que está más bien decorada y les gusta más. En las mesas hay unas tarjetitas blancas y ahí van a anotar el nombre de la agencia que más les gusta.
And then we're going to have Miss Armani. She's kneeling down here in the front now, sitting in the chair. She's waving her hand. She's going to be walking around with a box for you to put your index card in of who you thought had the best theme of the circus today.
Y Miss Armani, que es la señorita que está acá, va a pasar con una caja para que pongan la tarjetita adentro de la caja con el nombre de la agencia que más les gustó.
Awesome. And so then we also have a bingo game. You probably from the front receive the bingo card, and after you visit each table, or when you're visiting each table, they'll have a little round sticker, and you put that on the bingo card. Once you filled it up, you may win a prize. make sure that you put your name on the bingo card, okay?
Ok, también tenemos un juego de bingo. Tenemos un juego de bingo. Asegúrense de que le pongan el nombre a su tarjetita de bingo. Cada que vayan a las mesas, asegúrense de que le pongan un puntito a la tarjeta y entonces ya que llene la tarjeta es como van a estar rifando para que ganen.
And then lastly, when you came in, you should have got a little red raffle ticket where you wrote your name on the back of it. So there will be various prizes given throughout the day. So you don't want to leave. You want to stay just in case we pull your name.
Y por último, también cuando llegaron deberían de haber recibido un ticket rojo. Así es que, por favor, si gustan, al último van a rifar okay. En lo del transcurso de la conferencia van a estar rifando diferentes premios, así es que por favor, para que se ganen algo, por favor se quedan hasta que se acabe la conferencia, los invitamos y van a haber diferentes premios en el transcurso de la conferencia.
And to get started, let's do a raffle.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Aaron.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for translating for us. And they're going to go get the box that all of the raffle tickets are in so that we can do the first raffle of the day.
Well, while we are waiting, we do want to give out some thank yous for some of our vendors and organizations that helped put this together. So first we want to give thanks to Arrow Child and Family Ministries, who sponsored our breakfast for us. Then we also want to thank Family Alliance Network for preparing the lunch and helping with the lunch. We also would like to thank Methodist Children's Home, who's provided the coffee. You know, we all need coffee, right? Because no skin survive without coffee. And then we would also like to thank the Fellowship for allowing us to have our event here at their venue. Then we would also like to thank Monarch Family Services. We would also like to thank Maximus for the decoration. Maximus is who decorated in these nice centerpieces for our carnival theme. And then also Miss Nancy, our Spanish translator with Maximus. We want to thank her because Miss Brent and I are not bilingual, so it's no telling what we would have said. And so we just wanted to make sure to take the time out to thank all of our organizations that have helped us with, with gathering everything for our conference today. We would have coffee, we would have it. So we are very thankful and grateful for all of the organizations that have helped sponsor all of the items they have for our conference this morning. And you know what? We're gonna go ahead and roll on, guys, so we can stay on time. So we'll just double up on the raffle. We want to go ahead and be mindful of our guest speakers' time. So we are going to now transition to our panel speakers. So our first panel that we are hosting is Ask a Lawyer. And so with Ask a Lawyer, who our panel speaker, guest speaker is going to be, is attorney Nicole Love, who is with Texas Legal Center. And she will be our first panel speaker for Asking a Lawyer. So we have Mrs. Nicole's bio up here. So Ms. Nicole is Kin Care Project staff attorney at Texas Legal Services Center. And before joining the Kin Project, she was a solo practitioner representing parents and children in CPS cases in several different counties, and also worked as a part-time staff attorney for Texas Law Center Family Helpline. And then prior to that, Ms. Nicole had her solo practice where she worked for over 28 years in legal aid, practicing in a wide variety of areas. She is a graduate of the University of Houston Law Center and Texas A&M University. Mrs. Nicole Love, oh, that's in Spanish. People don't know. But we'll have it there for Spanish-speaking families to be able to, to read. Okay, and so now we will have Ms. Nicole Love joining us via Zoom.
Hi, everybody. I don't know if you can see me. Can y'all see me at all, or can you just hear me?
We can only just hear you, Ms. Nicole.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, in person, but I wanted to thank everybody for coming out this morning so that we could talk on this panel. I wasn't able to come because our grant, we only have a certain amount of money, and I'm not really able to travel too much, but I appreciate the fact that y'all were able to allow me to come in by Zoom.
And I also want to announce we do have another attorney that is here with us that will also be participating on the panel, and I would like to introduce her, Attorney Kimberly Stebber with Community Christian Legal Aid, and I'll let her introduce her, tell a little bit about herself.
Yes, thanks. Okay. So I work with Community Christian Legal Aid. It's mainly an organization in Montgomery County, but we actually correspond cases. And we do a lot of guardianships, we've done some adoptions. And prior to that, I worked in CPS and some courts appointed by the judges as either representing the parents or the child. So I'm familiar with those areas as well. And I just actually my experience, my background is in mainly adoptions and guardianships. So I think with that, we're ready to answer some questions. Procedure, would you like us to?
Yes, so I'll first like Nicole to kind of let us know what Texas Legal Service Center does, the services that you all provide.
Sure. And thank you for that opportunity. I realized I didn't answer that particular question. But Texas Legal Services Center was founded in 1981, and we're a statewide nonprofit organization that provides legal advice, advocacy, representation, and education to underserved people throughout the state. We have over a dozen practice areas, including the Kin Care Project, which was just started in January of 2024. So we are happy to be here this morning. Oh, there I am. You can see me. Hi, everybody.
Well, we would like to maybe start just kind of explaining some of the differences between adoptions, guardianships, that kind of the procedure, like, when you take over as a parent, because the real parents aren't there, what's the differences? What troubles do you have, and how can you get equal rights to take care of those children? So, you want to start with that, Nicole?
Sure. So when you are, when a child is with the parents, or even when a child is with a kinship caregiver for whatever reason, whether it be placement, an informal type of placement, or maybe, parents have deployed, or for any other reasons, maybe just in some sort of financial crisis, or housing crisis, or emotional crisis, the parents are still parents, and they have superior rights over everybody else, which means even though they might be living with someone else, the parents are still the parents, and they get to make still all the decisions, and as long as there are no court orders. If there are no court orders, then both legal parents have a superior right to say what goes on with that child over anybody else. And so, Kimberly, can you tell us why a legal parent, like who a legal parent is and why that's important?
So I'd like to take a little survey for the people that are out here. The people that are caregivers, are you grandparents, relatives? What if you raise your hand if you're a relative that's taking care of her? Okay, and do you have, are the parents around in those situations, but they're just not able to do their job or be, okay. So
Legal custody.
you have legal custody? Okay, so you kind of know, that's one of the things that you need to do is, we have a lot of situations where the parents just can't do it, or they may have passed away even, and the courts try to put kids with somebody that they know. And that's the type of situation that we would use. This is like, I'm going to pass it. Go ahead. So, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. So
I loved your question. Tell me what it was.
So I was just saying, why is, when you are looking at who is a legal parent, why is that important? Is there a reason why someone has to be a legal parent versus someone who might think that they're a parent?
Right, so, go ahead. Yes.
And why, so what is a legal parent?
Yeah.
Because I know that that's important in both custody cases and in adoption cases.
I am the grandparent, taking care of my grandson alone, on my own. What is considered abandonment? Because I haven't seen my son, which is the father, for over 2 years. And he has not.
So do you have any legal status, for your children?
Yes.
Okay. So that's so being a parent, your natural, the mother and the father are parents. If the father hasn't claimed to be the father, hasn't been established as the father, that needs to happen before he has any rights as a parent. A mother, you always know who that is generally because she gave birth, but the father lots of times is unknown. And so in order for a father to have any rights, they need to be established.
Okay.
And then,
Take it off.
yes,
But the situation is that the mother has passed away by December 9, 2017. If we have not seen my son for over 2 years, is that considered abandonment?
okay, that he still has the right, if he's established birth certificate or whatever, he's been established as a parent, he can still be, he was still the parent. And so that's the situations that a lot of people deal with, is these parents they're out there, but you don't really know where they are, and you can't get a hold of them to authorize the kid to go to school or anything like that. So you, as a relative or caretaker, needs to get some legal establishment of the right to represent those kids. And so that could be by CPS placement, it could be guardianship, it could be the most drastic one is adoption. But usually we have, we file a case representing the kid in a family law court. And so you can get rights by having a suit, what they call SAPSR, a suit affecting the parent-child relationship. And that can establish, you file that in a court, and it can establish your representation of the kid legally. So a parent always has the right to make decisions if they're around or even if they show back up, unless you have some kind of representation like that. Nicole, would you like to add anything?
Right. And I think that's the most important thing to recognize, because in my, with the clients and the people that call me every day, one of the things is, well, I've had the child, this parent hasn't been around. And so I have, I should have custody, or I should have some sort of temporary rights. That is not the way the law works. The law says that until there is a court order, that the parents have the superior right that means the right over everybody else. And the reason that it's important to have that legality is because I also have talked to people that said, well, but I think, my son may not be on the birth certificate, but he says he's the dad, or we did an at-home DNA test. That doesn't necessarily make somebody a legal father because they think so, okay? It has to be established somehow, whether signing the birth certificate, whether by filing something with the paternity registry, whether they've been adjudicated by the court, which means the court has signed an order saying someone's the father. But until there is a court order that says that someone else has rights to make decisions for this child, then the parent is the one who has the right. Even if someone says, well, I have an authorization from CBS, or maybe the parent signs something, doesn't that give me temporary custody or temporary guardianship? In the state of Texas, guardianship is not the same as custody or conservatorship, and a lot of people get that confused. And just because you have an authorization, or you've had the child in your care for quite some time, that doesn't give you temporary custody. It's like just basically being permitted to do something. I tell people that's like having a permission slip, and the parent can take it back whenever they want. I know that you were asking about abandonment, and I'm going to throw it back to Kimberly for what is required to file for a SAPSR if you're a non-parent. And then, maybe we can talk a little more about what the pros, what you would need to think about if you're thinking about filing something like that versus what is required for an adoption and what would be required for that. Do you think that that would be helpful?
So, yeah, again, so the suit affecting the parent-child relationship, that's, we just call it a SAPSR. But that's a petition that you file in the family law court. You're a little bit closer. Yeah, okay. That's a petition that you would file in the family law courts, and that to would qualify to file that if you had the child in your possession, he's been living with you for, I believe it's 6 months. And you've been the primary caretaker. But you can also file an intervention if you have, you're concerned about the child. But it's generally, your situation sounds like you've been the primary caretaker now for over 2 years? Yeah. Right, so you would have the right to file and ask the court basically to establish what your rights are. Your right to be the primary caretaker, the custodial parent, so to say, and your right to take him to school and medical things, all that type of stuff. But so you would get permission from the court. The court would make a ruling based on the information. Now, you have to give a chance to the father to come in and contest it. But if you think that they're not around and they're not going to bother, or even if they are and they just haven't been a very good parent, it's more likely that you're going to get custody of that kid. So most of you people that have stepped in and have been taking care of a child, that's your grandparent or relative or something, you have ability to go ahead and file that if you've been with the child for over 6 months, I believe. Is that right, Nicole?
It is, but I think it's important to recognize that there are also some other things that have to be considered in filing, and that's why, there's forms on the website that we run for the state on it's called texaslawhelp.org. That's a really good place to read up on what would be required for filing a suit affecting parent-child relationship, because it can depend on different circumstances. There are different things that you can allege that may make it more clear to the judge as to why you're asking for something. I think another really important thing to consider is the service of the parent. If the parent's not around, they still have a right to know that someone is filing something in court about their child. And so you still have to figure out how you're going to notify that parent and allow them the opportunity to come forward and say their piece to the court. When you have a missing parent or a parent that's not around, or maybe you never knew who the parent was, that can also make things a bit more difficult. And it may mean that it's best to talk with an attorney to try to figure out how you're going to go about notifying that parent or not. So that's something that you need to really consider when someone is looking at filing one of these suits affecting parent-child relationship. I would also say, and I'm going to throw it to Kimberly here in a minute for an adoption, but some of the things that someone might want to consider when they're looking at filing up one of these lawsuits is, do you have what's called standing? And that is the part that basically says, are you able to go into court and tell the court why you should be able to file this lawsuit because you're not a parent? One of those is having the child for 6 months or longer in your care, but there are some other things that can be looked at to be able to do that. Can the parents be served? Does the child have, in fact, a legal father? Are the parents going to contest it? Because if the parents are going to come in and say, well, I don't want you to be the person that raises my child, even though you may have been the person that's had the child in your possession, the parents still have a right to come in and tell the judge, I don't think this is what I want. And if that's the case, somebody's coming in on the Zoom. I don't know if that's your next speaker. But you have to consider all of that. So those are things to just consider. But if you do get possession of the child through a suit affecting parent-child relationship, then it can give you the right to make those decisions for the child. It can allow you to make decisions with the parent for the child. When you're having conservatorship, the parents will have certain rights and duties, and the non-parent conservator can have certain rights and duties. The main one that people kind of want to focus on is who has the right to determine where the child lives. But those things and the right to establish the receipt of child support, all those things can be really important. So those are all things that someone needs to consider when they're looking at doing something like that. When you're talking about adoption,
Yes, much more,
right.
a lot more difficult, and just there's a lot more steps to go to, because that is a permanent termination of the parent's rights, and you are in effect the parent. I mean, they can change the person. So it's a big, big thing, and the courts want to be sure, in particular, that this is a good decision. They do home studies. You have to get evaluation. You really have to try to track down those parents, because again, they don't want to terminate somebody's rights. I've had cases where the mother has passed away, and the dad they don't know. They don't know who the dad is. But there are some ways that they try to check and give that notice. And for example, in Austin, there's a registry that parents or fathers can register if they are the parent, and they check that and see if anybody's in there. If nobody's done that, that's one step you're over. But you have to try to track that person down and establish who's the dad, and reach out to unknown dads. So it's a process, and some people don't like even doing it because they feel that it, for example, in a situation I have where the mother died, the grandparents don't want to do an adoption because they feel that would erase her memory or make her, she's still the mom and they were the grandchild. So you want to kind of keep those bonds and that family, shape, then you would probably go for just the custody. So adoption is again a pretty big step, and they try to make sure that it's everybody knows and has either relinquished their rights or found that their rights were terminated.
And that brings us to our next question, which we just led into, Nicole and Kimberly. So if you ladies can speak to the difference between formal and informal kinship care and what their process is, as well as the pros and cons.
Okay, I'm going to pass that one to Nicole because I generally just do the adoptions and sepsis. So go ahead.
Sure. So when you're talking about formal kinship care, what you're talking about is a case in which CPS has been involved, and CPS has removed the child from the home and then placed the child with a placement who then may or may not get licensed as a formal foster parent, and then may or may not end up receiving custody. But while that child is in that process, that is called formal foster care, formal foster placement. When you're talking about a child who maybe CPS might have been involved at the beginning during an investigation, and then maybe CPS said, well, parent, if you can find somebody who would take this child as a safe place, then, we'll see how things go. And maybe it didn't go any further than that. Or maybe parents disappeared after they placed the kid because they thought, well, then that way they won't remove my child. Or maybe mom and dad just disappeared. Or maybe, they're in crisis. Or maybe they're having substance abuse or mental health issues. A lot of that happens. But when you're in that place where the court is not involved, that is called an informal custody situation. And there are some really big differences between being in that formal care situation and being in an informal care situation, as some of y'all probably know. In formal care, you have the ongoing case management, you have court oversight, you might be eligible for monthly payments, you get, there might be legal help for adoptions or legal payment for adoptions by the state to an adoption attorney. But then as a placement or a caregiver, you don't really have the right to anybody to represent you in any kind of CPS case. So you still may or may not really have a lot of say, unless you do what's called an intervention, which means then you're asking the court for permission to be a part of that case. If you're an informal caregiver, there is not really any of that. There's no case management, there's no court oversight, there's no financial benefit to you, and you may or may not have any authority depending upon what, if CPS may have gotten you some sort of written authorization or not. And I want to be real clear and say too that I've had people that told me, well, I have a CPS safety plan. Once that CPS case is over, or even after a certain amount of time, say for example, they put a safety plan in place during an investigation, and then they said, okay, well, we're going to close the case because the child is now in a safe and stable environment. That safety plan is void. That doesn't, that document is not a valid document. So they can say, well, we want you to keep this child where the child is and away from the parent, but that still doesn't give the non-parent any kind of legal standing to go to court to get something that says that you have the right to make those decisions. You have to go to court and get a court order.
So are any of you in the informal position, or yes? Okay, and have you had any problems with like the schools recognizing your authority, or did you have something more? So, yeah. Okay.
So I take care of my second cousin. She's 14, and when I decided to pick her up before CPS intervention, I made her mom sign the Texas non-parent caregiver form so that when she got here, I would have authority to put her in school, to put her on my health insurance and things like that. But because we didn't go through CPS, I don't get services. Well, Good Hutchins has helped me with what they could, but I have two parents who don't care for her at all. Before I picked them up, she was with my grandma who took care of me because I myself was a foster child. But I don't, as far as at school, it's fine. Doctors is fine just because of that form, but it's not going to last forever, and I don't qualify for the attorney of referral because I make too much money. So eventually I'm going to be at a standstill when it comes to her. School's fine, doctors are fine. I was able to get her into therapy with putting her on my insurance. Like that form did help her put on my insurance. My insurance said that she's mine. But that's kind of where everything stops as far as that form goes.
So are you interested in having a more formal custody of her?
Yes. I made the decision for her to come here, and you know, she's mine. She's mine, and I don't. She wasn't when I picked her up. I made it clear she wasn't. There's no home for her to go back to. She's mine. So I would like it to be more formal, just so that I'm safe and as well as she is safe. Because you know, as parents get clean, her mom can show up 2 years later and say, "Hey, I want my kid back," and I can't do anything because I just have a piece of paper, and the piece of paper says when the parent is ready for their child, this is null and void, and they can come get their kid.
I think this is an excellent circumstance where like a staff sir would probably do you well, and it may even establish child support. Not sure if you're going to collect it, but it could establish that as far as, you know, giving you the parents' requirement to pay you something, and if you ever can collect it, you know, sometimes if you can't collect it now, it's still always there for to collect it later on. So I think that it probably would be a good idea to do that, to file something in the family courts. I don't know as far as the financial issue on that. Maybe some of us can help later, but what do you have thoughts on, Nicole?
Let me just say, I can't, you know, in terms of resources, CCLA is there. Unfortunately, my particular grant, you have to be relatively low income to qualify. My percentage is 125% of the federal poverty guidelines, and I was going to talk about what that means in terms of benefits that might be available. But what that is it's a federally calculated amount of money that basically there's different charts. And basically what that means is it's the minimal amount of the government believes that someone can live on, and that's how they use those numbers. There are, unfortunately, not very many organizations that are able to assist with kinship caregivers in trying to get some, you know, the legal things that they need in order to keep these kids safe and stable. So unfortunately, there's not really a ton of resources, and then it depends on what county you would live in. Some counties have more than others. But I know that CCLA does have a larger percentage that they look at for someone to earn to apply for their services. So that might be a good resource.
And although it's difficult, you don't technically need a lawyer to file. It could be that you have a lawyer advising you, and you can file. You know, it's definitely best always to have a lawyer because there's a lot of notice requirements and everything. But you may be able to, with Texas law help, look into that yourself.
And that's a possibility, yes. Those forms and some guides are there on texaslawhelp.org. There's the ability to chat with a family law attorney Monday through different counties that once you kind of have filed something, they can help you look over the documents, or I won't say necessarily as you go, but sometimes they do. They can't give you legal advice, but they can help with the documents. So those are all good resources. There are some other resources, and I can talk about those, in a little bit. But those are, Texas Law Help would be a really great one because there's a button that you can click to find resources in your area.
Yeah, so you can look into that. You sound like a very intelligent woman. You could very well maybe start that on your own. So.
And so now we're going to open up the floor for Q&A. So we will start with our first caregiver. So just raise your hand if you have a question, and I'll come around to you.
This is more of a comment for you. If you go on the Harris County District Court website, They have forms for filing for yourself, and they are very, they're very good, they're very they're friendly, you know, they're user friendly, so, and you can answer the questions and fill them out, and I'm not a lawyer, so, but my advice is to use that first, get yourself in the system, file, and then hire a lawyer, because it's a lot cheaper to do the footwork yourself and go get the information available and there, and then a lawyer can help you.
And quite often the court here appoints an ad litem or an attorney to represent the parents, and so they will probably do a lot of legwork of, well, trying to find them. I guess in your situation, I was thinking more of the abandonment issue, but you know, so there's a lot of resources. In Montgomery County, where I'm more familiar with, we have an attorney in the law library that help, and a paralegal that helps with a lot of petitions and divorces and this type of custody situation.
And I'll just say that those forms that she's talking about, those are the Texas Law Help forms. Those are the ones that all the law libraries, the courts, that they'll all have those posted on their websites. So those are the Texas Law Help forms.
I'm legal guardian of my special needs nephew. My sister died last year, so we went through an attorney, went through the courts. He's going to be 18 in just a few months, so we're going to go back through the process of a legal guardian, so I can think he's an adult legal guardian. My worry is that there's going to be a settlement involved, and we're in a small community, so it's just time before it gets out. After he's 18 and I've gone through the adult guardianship, can his dad, who, he was on the birth certificate, he is the dad, all that stuff, can he then come in and try to take my nephew because of the money, or would I have to, would I at that point have to rehire an attorney?
So I can answer that one. So you were appointed, what's your status right now?
Well, I'm his aunt, but I'm his legal guardian as a minor.
Okay.
So when he turns 18.
Right, and then so a lot of
back
people
around.
have this for disabled, that they need to, when the child turns 18, is suddenly the state says, oh, well, now he's an adult, but he still, can't make decisions for himself, so you have to, unfortunately, go through the process of being established as a guardian of an adult. And so in that procedure, that you have to give notice to the dad and brothers, sisters, and the parent, mother, so they can talk at that time or fight it. I think since you've had this,
Well, he'll sign it. He'll sign it as a minor. He'll sign it as Cody becomes an adult. But what I'm afraid of
well,
is
then, so you would be established as guardian of so there's guardian of the person and guardian of the estate. Usually you just, in
I would do
situations.
both. But
Yeah,
then the dad
usually there
comes
is,
in.
if the kid doesn't have any money and stuff, it's just you get a guardianship of the person, and it's a little easier for you, don't have to do the accounting or anything like that. And you just, the benefits come to you, but there's no estate, there's not a house or anything like that. If you come to the point where there is a settlement, then you would become guardian of the person and the estate. And once you're guardian, I don't think the father has any rights to come in and change that. So you would, if he's gonna not do anything when you first establish it, I think you're in good shape. But give it a good look. So, yeah, so you sound like you've already thought of that process and are familiar with some of it, so.
I just didn't know if he could say, well, I'm the dad, so now I can come back in and go, and try to do
Yeah,
it.
so I think when they're 18, it kind of changes. If you're, once you're established and he's agreeable with that, I mean, he has the right to come in and dispute it once he's 18, but once you're established, then I think that the court would see what it is. Do you have anything to add to that, Nicole?
No, in terms of guardianships, I think those are they're different than a custody case. And so I think Kimberly probably since she does those, definitely would be more of the person. I would just say when you're dealing with a guardianship, it might be better to talk with an attorney and get some advice about what the best thing to do would be, especially if there's going to be a settlement involved.
Right. Okay, so we have about 2 more minutes, Nicole and Kimberly. What else is it that you would like to share with the families and the professionals here in closing out regarding Ask a Lawyer or any resources?
Well, I think you had asked about some benefits, and Nicole knows a little more about helping families get those. You want to add anything about that?
Sure, and I think, there are a lot of benefits that are available to kinship caregivers in terms of maybe ones that some people may or may not be familiar with, other than things like SNAP. I think it's really important to know, and I'll just kind of plug this series that the Texas Alliance of Child and Family Services, we're going to do a public benefits webinar next month. So if that's something that you guys might be interested in knowing a little bit more about, you can talk to Nick Kelsey. I can talk to y'all about that a little bit more. But it's important to know that TANF especially, there is something called child-only TANF, which means that only the child's income counts. So a lot of informal kinship caregivers don't apply for child-only TANF. They think that it's as a whole that the household has to be considered. Every kiddo in informal care just about will qualify for at least one TANF benefit, 1 month's worth. So it might be something that someone wants to take a look at. I know some people had also asked about SSI. SSI is a needs-based program, which means financially you have to be eligible for that. There's something else called old age survivor and disability insurance. That's an employment-based program, which means you have to have worked a certain period of time to be eligible for that. It is possible potentially for kiddos to get survivor's benefits based off their parents' or their grandparents' work records, but that can be a very difficult thing. There's lots of questions that have to go and be answered. A lot of times under a grandparent's records, there has to be an adoption, although there are exceptions for that. For SSI for kids, if they're disabled, they can be qualified for either an adult or a child to be qualified as disabled. They have to be disabled for 12 months or longer. And then there's also some resource issues. But the TANF is one I wanted to point out. There's also something called a one-time TANF for relatives that I talk to people about all the time. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime payment of $1,000 to certain relatives caring for kiddos that aren't theirs. The sort of key to that is that it is a one-time benefit and that the child has to be eligible for or receiving TANF themselves. But the family income can be a little bit higher. And again, that's something that almost no caregivers apply for. So when you're applying for your child as a child only, which means you have to apply as a caregiver, then that's also something that you can apply for at that time. And again, you can apply as a payee, which is for that child-only TANF instead of a caretaker, which is sort of counting the household as a whole. But those are some of the benefits. Again, in terms of right now, of course, there's some income tax issues. and some things that as a caregiver you might be eligible for. I'm not a tax expert. I just kind of tell people about those and tell you to go talk to your tax experts. But I would say definitely the Kin Care Project is here. We don't get involved in grandparents versus parents' rights. So if you're a grandparent that is looking for grandparent visitation, but you don't have possession of the child, that's not something that we would help with. But we do, can help potentially with the informal caregiver situations if you are a non-parent caregiver. But again, we do have that financial qualification. The Family Helpline is also run through TLSE. If you're involved with CPS at all, you can call that helpline anonymously, and they can talk to you about what's going on in a CPS case, help you to understand your part in it, help you to understand the process. But they're available, and again, you can find them on texaslawhelp.org or go to Texas Legal Services Center. There's also a Kin Care Primer, which is basically a guide for kinship caregivers, and it talks about almost everything that, at least it gives you some basics on different things, like suits affecting parent-child relationship, what benefits you might be eligible for, and just a whole host of different other things. And you can, again, find out on texaslawhelp.org. So that's also another really good resource to be able to go to. And I know for Community Christian Legal Aid, I can let Kimberly tell you what their information is. But to get to the Kin Care Project, you can apply. We have a phone number, 512-477-6000, extension 216. So again, that's 512-477-6000, extension 216. That's a dedicated voicemail line. If you leave your voicemail, we'll try to get back with you to at least do a pre-screen to see if you're eligible. And then I think, Kimberly, you can give CCLA's information.
Just real quickly, we have a website, so if you search Community Christian Legal Aid, you'll find the website, and there's a form on there that you can apply for aid. And we do have a little higher standard, usually like 200% of the poverty level, so more people qualify. But again, we have limited resources because a lot of us are volunteer, but we will do the best we can.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Nicole, Attorney Nicole and Attorney Kimberly. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I just want to put out there too, if you want to see if you might qualify under the federal poverty guidelines, those are on texaslawhelp.org. So you can go to that website and you can just search for federal poverty guidelines, and it will bring up the different charts, and that might help you figure out if you're eligible for something or not.
Thank you. All right.
So thank you guys for having us very much.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Everyone, let's give them a round of applause. All right. So when we transition to panel 2, we are going to do a quick raffle drawing.
So you pull the name and I'll say the name.
If I could fit in this box. All right. Ticket number 3129982. Yolanda Rios. Yolanda Rios. Come on, Miss Rios. Come on down. All right, Miss Rio. All right, okay. So we are now going to go
to our panel 2 guest.
All right, so for panel 2, we have grief and loss. And we're gonna have Ms. Kelly Tronstad with Bellis and Patricia Shearer of the Compassionate Friends Sugarland chapter. I will be your moderator for panel 2. Is Ms. Kelly and Ms. Patricia here, or are they virtual? Okay, got it. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, welcome, and thank you for coming and being a part of the wrap.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. So you can begin by just, again, introducing yourself and then just letting us know what your organization does.
Absolutely. Is it all right if I share my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Okay. Can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, hi everybody. My name is Kelly Tronstad. I am the Executive Director of Bellis. We are a nonprofit organization based out of Minneapolis, and we provide grief support to men and women whose children are parented by others. So, and that is sounds like a pretty broad description, which it is. But we were originally created to provide support for women who had received a termination of parental rights or a transfer of legal custody. We are the only organization in the country that provides this unique type of grief support. So in order to manage the vastness of the need across the country, we are mainly virtual. So I will share a little bit more about that later. But yeah, that is what we do here at Bellis. So I was asked by Moya to come and speak at this, and I'm really, really excited about the opportunity to share with you all a little bit more about what we do. So there's me. I started out as a facilitator at Bellis, and moved into the executive director just almost a year ago, exactly now. Formerly, I was a family support coach for an organization here in Minnesota called Children's Home. So I provided support for parents who were adopting children out of the foster care system. So I've been very fortunate to be able to really work on both ends of the spectrum of this. And yeah, quit that former job in order to devote myself full time to working here at Bellis. So, just want to take a minute to just kind of talk about the unique type of grief that we address. So, there are obviously a lot of grief support groups that exist here in the U.S., but like I said, there are none that address this unique grief that is experienced by people who have experienced a termination of parental rights or transfer of legal custody. So what we know is that women or people who experience this experience something called an ambiguous loss, in which there is no real recognition for the type of loss that they've experienced, which leads to really an unresolved grief because there's no resolution, there's no closure. So with a death, typically there is a funeral and there is a community gathering and a lot of support from friends, from family. When somebody experiences a termination of parental rights or transfer of legal custody, it typically goes very unrecognized. So, and this lack of recognition causes a huge amount of pain, distress, that compromises people's ability to function as they might hope to. And this is usually compounded when people have a TPR or a TLC. It's things in their life are not going as they should anyways. So this ambiguous loss compounds this grief, making it worse and often causing a spiral. So the goal of our groups is to provide support for people who have experienced this ambiguous loss and help them learn to live with this inherent stress by increasing their resilience. People who experience this ambiguous loss, their grief is unique too in that we classify it as disenfranchised. So, like I said, kind of with this ambiguous loss, they are not recognized as a person who has experienced a loss. particularly if this loss has come by what society might deem immoral or illegal acts. The parent will experience a greater sense of grief and much less resilient because they are seen as less than and maybe not as they don't quote unquote deserve to have support because of the decisions that they have made that led to this removal of their child from their custody. So because of this ambiguous loss, because of this disenfranchised grief, guilt and shame increase, isolation increases, and this isolation worsens our grief, and it often leads to greater mental health or substance use disorders, criminal activity, or other further spirals. And like I said, people who find themselves in this situation are already typically experiencing one or more of these things to begin with, and so now it's just amplified. So being able to be with other people who have experienced the same thing that you have, provides a sense of safety and a sense of compassion and empathy. And in doing this, people's resilience can increase. So I think it's just important to note that unresolved grief, it is not something that just eventually dissipates on its own. Actually, what it does is continue to increase until it is properly managed. And just recognizing that, like the removal of a child from your care just paralyzes your coping strategy. So when somebody is, already in a difficult place and then their child is removed from their care, it's just, really sealing the deal for them. Executive functioning skills, I think that this is such an important thing to recognize. Executive functioning skills become compromised. And these skills are things like doing the dishes, bathing, making your bed, keeping your home clean, making a doctor's appointment. So, I think about myself when I'm going through something, even moderately challenging, how I sit there and I'm like, I don't have it in me today to, call and make that appointment, or I'm seeing all of these dishes in the sink and I can't deal with it. And I have the support of family and friends around me. I have people who are recognizing my struggle, who are able to help me out of this. For people who have experienced this ambiguous loss and disenfranchised grief, they often don't have this. So it really makes it difficult for them to be able to move forward with any sort of plan, because I know that is often why don't they just do this? All of these things are available to them, but because of this unresolved grief, it impacts their ability to successfully do so. Their life often feels purposeless and directionless without this parent identity. As we become parents, we are automatically given this parental role, this parental identity. And when that is abruptly taken away from us or without our desire to have that done, it can really confuse our identity, making it difficult to figure out who am I, what is my purpose now, what is the purpose of my life if I am not a parent any longer. This feeling of a loss of control, feeling a lot of hopelessness about their future, what does this mean for me and how will I continue to go on? Lots of feelings of people feeling unworthy of joy and happiness. I have had several women, these are just ones that I've encountered in coming to groups, say, am I allowed to go see a movie? I don't feel like I'm worthy of being able to go see a movie because I don't feel like I should experience, and they're like, I don't even know if I'll enjoy the movie, but I don't even feel like I'm worthy of going to a movie. We had a woman come to one of our in-person groups that said that she didn't sit in a chair for over a year because she didn't feel worthy of a comfort that a chair would give her. So she either sat on the floor or stood for everything that she needed to do that would require that. So, and then there is this huge guilt of giving up, particularly when they are not fighting the TPR or the TLC any longer, because they just don't have the resources to do so, and they feel like they should continue to fight, but they just don't have the ability to. So the guilt of that is very impactful. So here's just some quotes from some of the people that we have supported. how they are feeling when they come to our groups. So I'll just give you a minute to read through these. And we have people who are writing into our participation group line, and we have quotes like this that come in almost every single day. So to date, we've had over 600 people sign up for our grief support group. So you can imagine this is just a small sampling of them. But what we have learned as a result of holding these grief support groups, so we've been doing this since April of 21. We have steadily increased from one in-person group to now one in-person group, 6 online support groups. We have partnered with several organizations here in Minnesota to offer these. And then we also have a cohort out at Shakopee Women's Prison here in Minnesota. So we have quite a bit of experience with this, but this is what we have discovered. So addressing people's grief is a basic human right. People are inherently worthy of compassion and empathy. They don't need to earn it. And addressing this grief is just, they don't have to do anything for it. It's just inherent. No two stories are alike. So our wording that we have at Bellis is, like I said before, for people whose children are parented by others. And that has become so broad simply because of the different stories that are coming into us, like I said, on a daily basis. All are very, very different, but what binds these people together is their grief and their commonality in that grief. Parents recognize that they are motivated to do better when they become aware that parents who do better have children that do better. So for a lot of the parents that we encounter, they don't have any hope of seeing their children, but they feel like everything has been completely cut off, which it may or may not have. We never give any sense of false hope, but we do encourage them that if and when that occurrence ever does happen, for them to be the best person that they can be is such a huge benefit to their child. So whether or not that relationship is there, that connection is there, just that if it ever does become possible, we always ask them, what do you want your child to see? And that is a huge motivating factor for them. Once we address the shame, we can help parents move forward with a sense of purpose and agency. So some of them are so beholden to their behaviors that they did that resulted in the removal of their children from their care, but helping them to understand that shame and guilt are two different things. You can feel badly for things that you have done, which is guilt. Shame is feeling bad for who you are as a human being. So we remind people that you are not your past, you are not your behaviors. You can move forward from this, and that is the goal. And lastly, that it is possible to live with this grief and find continued meaning in life. And now having done this for coming up on 4 years, I think that having some of these women who have been with us for almost these 4 years and watching their progress has been absolutely tremendous and really meaningful for other people who are just starting to come into our group, seeing that there is a way forward. So the ability to find this resilience in the grief that these people are experiencing, it's really just this ability to somehow live well in the face of uncertainty. Now, living well becomes very different for people depending on how far along they are in their journey. For some, this might just mean, hey, today I got up and I showered. And that is a huge accomplishment for them. That is a huge goal. And for other people, it is, they went back to school or they attained a job that they had been really looking forward to doing. So the goals become different as people continue on in their journey. But what we do recognize is that the ability to acquire this resilience, to live in that space between the un and the unknown, or the known and the unknown, requires community, and it requires a sense of control. So what Bellis does is helps to create this community for people who might not otherwise have it, and to be surrounded by other people who get it. And I think we can all relate to that fact when we are feeling a certain way, and when we encounter somebody who's been like, oh my gosh, I've been there, I totally hear what you're saying and can relate to us, like the things that they are saying, it's like a light bulb going off in our head, and we're like, I can't believe that there's somebody else in this world who knows exactly how I'm feeling. I've never felt that before. And just that huge sense of relief that we have as a result of finding that is overwhelmingly beautiful. So at Fellas, we are not here to judge, we are not here to fix, we're just here to offer compassion and understanding and empathy. And for our participants in our group, it's a really unique space because they are empowered. And every time that they come to group, sometimes they are the ones that are providing the support, and other times they're the ones that are in need of support. So having that balance and that dynamic where everybody feels like they are participating and are beneficial is really incredibly motivating. So after attending 5 sessions, this is just some of our results that we have had. So people overwhelmingly report that they feel less alone, less ashamed, more supported, able to make meaning of their grief, meaning that they're able to manage it in a better way, recognizing that this isn't something that has to bury them, but that they can continue to move through it. And also they are better equipped to communicate with their children if or when this is at all possible. So here are some of the words that they have used to express how they feel as a result of attending these support groups, which is just tremendous. And every time I get a chance to read these, it's just a wonderful, beautiful reminder of why I'm here and why I'm doing this work. I wanted to comment too, we have one woman that so we have 6 groups a week. 1 is for men, 5 are for women. And we have several women that just come to every single meeting, every single week. And this one woman said, this is my family, my friends, and my community all rolled into one. So for right now, Melissa is all she has. So that's why she attends as frequently as she does. So just a little bit more about what we do. Like I said, providing grief support for men and women together. Most of our groups are virtual, just so that we can reach the audiences that are in need of us. So to date, we have supported people in 44 out of the 50 states, including Canada and the United Kingdom. So we had a woman who set her alarm for 2 a.m. in order to attend a Bellis meeting that was happening at 7 p.m. Central Time. So, when we talk about the need for this, it is obviously, as you can see, it is very great. Our groups are always facilitated by a licensed professional, whether that be a licensed parent educator, a social worker, or a therapist. We have no political or religious affiliation or agenda. We are completely separate from child welfare and government agencies, so that kind of creates more of a sense of trust for the people who are participating. They just want to make sure that this isn't something that they're going to be investigated for, or, as they are telling their story, that it's somehow going to get reported back and reflect poorly upon them. So like I said, we offer the 6 drop-in support groups, so this just means that people can come at any time. You don't have to sign up and come every single week. You can come religiously, and like the one woman who comes for all of the meetings every single week and has for the last 4 months. We have women that come for a short amount of time, and then maybe they drop off, and then we see them again 6 months later. So there's no schedule for it. It's available for whenever somebody needs it. We have 1 monthly in-person group that takes place at our office in Minneapolis. We have a cohort out at Shakopee Women's. So we always say, if we don't answer right away, we will be getting back to you very shortly. And then we also do offer day and weekend retreats, which are just incredible. It's an incredible experience to be a part of as a facilitator. And then this is one of my favorite quotes from one of the people that we have supported, and just recognizing the power in having feeling understood, feeling seen, feeling acknowledged, feeling supported, and just the power that that has in making a difference in being able to move forward in daily life. So that kind of brings me to this next portion here where I want to talk about the experiences that you all have as kinship providers. In hearing about everything that I just talked about, you may have recognized the people in your life who, I may be describing. Like I said, with my former job, I was working with parents who were adopting children out of foster care. A lot of them were kinship providers who were moving towards adoption. And a lot of what I had encountered in that role is the difficulty that adoptive parents or kinship providers or foster care providers have in feeling empathy for the biological parents, because they are the ones that are enduring the stress, feeling the trauma from the children, and everything that they are going through. And what I recognized as a parent coach was just that these parents, those of you that are taking on this role of caring for these children, everybody will be, oh, you're doing such an amazing thing, and you are, but that job is extremely difficult, and can be a huge feeling of resentment that builds up, and anger, and frustration and sadness for the entire experience that you are going through. And I feel like that is something that is not acknowledged very much at all. And so when the biological parent, when you're still having interactions with them, it can make it really difficult to have a relationship with that biological parent because of the lack of acknowledgement, the lack of feeling seen, heard, and understood, and the acceptance for all of your feelings that is not going on. And 100% rightfully so. So making sure that that acknowledgement is happening on your end, so that it can grow a greater space for, we can't feel empathy for others unless empathy is felt for ourselves, is the bottom line. So when this happens, and when we have these feelings of resentment that continue to build and they don't have any place to go, the two greatest human emotional needs are a need for connection and a need for control. And oftentimes, in a situation, that you are having, everything feels very much out of control. And the only way to gain control is through controlling the relationship between the biological parent and their child. And then this resentment, it causes us to put up strict boundaries that may feel unfair to the biological parent. And then you get into this very negative cycle of having this tenuous relationship between the two of you, and then the biological parent will be like, well, nothing I ever do is good enough, so why do I keep trying, which causes them to, further shame spiral. It's a constant negative spiral that is going on. And in the end, nobody ends up winning, and in particular, it's the children that do lose out. So while it is important to, we know that children do better when they have a connection to their birth parent if it is safe to do so. And there is the importance in doing this, but also recognizing that you have to have your needs met before that you can get to this step.
So,
yes.
Thank you so much. We're kind of pressed for time, and we're trying to work through the time.
But I'm so sorry.
No,
this was it. This was my last one.
Oh, no, this is all definitely good information, and I think it's very much so needed. If we can, as the caregivers, get our heart to a point where we can be empathetic towards the ones that our children and cousins and family that are going through. Are we ready for Miss Patricia? Yes. Okay. So next we're going to have Miss Patricia. So sorry to have to cut you off, Miss Kelly.
No.
Thank you so much. Next we're going to have Miss Patricia to come up and just kind of let us know about her organization and then a little bit about what they do.
Okay, hi, I'm Tricia year, and this is a national organization. We're actually officially out of Chicago, but we do have over 500 chapters across the country. Our purpose is to provide hope and healing, not healing, but support for families who have lost a child. So we're going a step further in the grief process. Many of you may be raising your grandchildren or your nieces or your nephews because their parent has died. So I want to spend just a few minutes talking a little bit about grief. Well, you can read when I read my bio up there. That's me. I was born and raised here in Houston. I lost my son on February 9th, 2003. He was killed by a drunk driver. He was 23 years old. So it's been 22 years as of just a couple of weeks ago. And I have two surviving children, Catherine, who's 40, and Robert, who's 37. So I don't even know what else I put in there, I'm sorry. I'm a retired high school teacher. Taught everybody's favorite subject, math, right? And also taught AP computer science. That was a fun course to teach. I started attending Compassionate Friends, a month or so after my son died. And over the years, instead of being the one being supported, I became one of the supporters, and I moved into leadership, and I'm now the chapter leader of the Sugar Land Southwest Houston Compassionate Friends. I've lived in the Houston area my whole life. Right now I live in Manville, Texas. And if you don't know, that's a little town. It's just south of Pearland, out 288. I also, 6 years ago, was elected to serve on the National Board of Directors, which I have one more year following this year as serving on the national board, which we do a lot of planning. It's a lot of work. And because my son was killed by a drunk driver, I also volunteer with MAD, which is Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I do a lot of speaking, and I speak at victims impact panels because I'm considered a victim, but I consider myself a survivor. I also speak at high schools. I speak to kids. That's my passion anyway, as teenagers. I'm one of those weird people that really loves teenagers. And not the junior high ones, though. No, they need to grow up a little bit. High schoolers are my passion. So I speak at high schools a lot. Just telling them, I'm not naive enough to think that a child is, that they're not going to drink before they're 21. Too many of them do. But I tell them some of the consequences of that. I speak at other events like this one. This is a first for me, though. The previous presenter talked a lot about grief. And when you think about grief, probably the first thing that goes through your mind is what? Death, right? But, and I said there was a clicker up here. Oh, righty. Which one do I click? The top one? That one? Oh, the arrow. That makes sense, right? Okay. Grief shows up in many situations. We grieve all of these. You break up with your boyfriend, girlfriend. You grieve it, even though it might have been the right thing to do. You move away to a new area. You're losing your familiarity with where you lived. You're losing the friends you made in your neighborhood. You're having to start over. So we grieve a lot of different things. But a lot of studies have said that the death of a child is the worst one to grieve. It's called an out-of-order death. You expect to bury your parents. You expect to bury, one of you is going to bury a spouse if you're married. As you age, I have a sister that's 4 years older than I am, and she's actually my oldest living relative. one of us is going to have to bury the other one. That's expected. Now, you don't expect to do it when they're 22 or 23. And my children were 15 and 19 at the time they lost their big brother. That's an out of order death. And it breaks a person, especially the parents. And we're not fixable. I can't be restored to what I was on February 8th of 2003. That all changed in the early morning hours of February 9th, 2003. But through a lot of support and a lot of work, I found a way to move forward. And I don't use the term move on. You never move on from the death of a child. It's always there. But I moved forward. And a lot of us call this a new normal. It's not the same as it was before. You know, my life existed before my son died and after my son died. Now, how many of you, oops, what did I do? There we go. How many of you have ever heard of the stages of grief? Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote a book. But you know, that book was called On Death and Dying. And that book was written as a result of her interviewing several men. And a lot of people look at, you know, they started relating this to grief, to what we grieve when we lose a loved one. And a lot of people wanted to say, okay, I'm over the shock. Now I have to move to anger. Now I have to move to bargaining, whatever the next one was there. Then depression. Okay, I'm done being depressed. No. Grief is not linear. This is what it looks like, but that's actually what you get. It's a mess. You're going back and forth and back and forth. Just a few weeks ago, my husband and I were on a cruise. And I was sitting at a table one evening, just enjoying, you know, floating along the ocean. Another lady sat down and we started visiting. And she asked me about my bracelet. Now, I've worn a bracelet like this or similar to this for over 20 years. And she asked me what my bracelet was. And it was a shock. She's the first person in all that time that asked me about this bracelet. And I was right back to that shock, the deer in the headlight. 22 years later, and I'm back at step one. Because one side of my bracelet says, the compassionate friends. The other side says, forever in my heart. Grief, excuse me. And it can be, you know, the things are there. And that's just a few. But one of the best things is when I started attending Compassionate Friends and I was going through some of these, I realized I wasn't going crazy because there were days I thought I was. But everybody was feeling the same way that I was, so we're good. I want to focus on two of them. I don't have one of them up there, but that's okay. First, guilt. A lot of us feel guilty because of the situation we're in. And my son was on his way back to Corpus Christi, where he was a youth director at a church there. I was out of town at a youth retreat with the high schoolers from the church I attend. So I was in Palestine, Texas, and my son was heading down 59, heading back towards Corpus when he was killed. But there's still times, and as a parent, a grandparent, a foster parent, an aunt raising a child, raising their niece or nephew, our job is to protect that child, regardless of what parental role we're in. Our job is to protect that child. And my thought was, I failed. I'm a lousy parent because I didn't protect my child. And those feelings of grief just become overwhelming. But it's not true. You didn't fail. You're human, you're not perfect, and you did the best you could. And that's all you can hope for, is to keep doing the best you can as you're now raising your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, or even a foster child that was placed with you that's not any relation, but they're in your care. And all you can do is your best. You're going to make mistakes. I didn't make a mistake that resulted in my son's death. But it's hard to tell yourself that when you're dealing with it. The other one is anger. You can be angry at a lot of things and a lot of people. I was angry with God. The young man that was drunk that hit my son wasn't hardly injured. His younger brother, who was in the car next to him, was severely injured and life-flighted into Herman, but he survived and is still alive. And my son died. Why? Why my son out of the three? I was angry at God. And if you let that anger just sit and not get rid of it, it just festers and it grows and it grows and it grows, and eventually it's going to come out some way. Well, this is one of those things I did that I thought it was going crazy. I would drive my car out to a parking lot to the far corners where there weren't any cars or any people, and I would scream and yell at the top of my lungs. If anybody had seen me, they probably would have sent the little men in the white coats, and I'd be languishing somewhere. But I got rid of my anger. I had a release. I had a friend who said she went through at least a half a dozen pillows the first year after her daughter died, because she would bang and bang and bang on those pillows and they finally split open. Some people go for a good long run. Some people meditate. But if you're angry, you've got to get rid of the anger. You've got to let it out. Not to say it's not going to come back, but you got to let it out. We don't need to do that. So what do you do to take care of yourself? And that's important, especially if you're now raising a child. You've got to take care of yourself. And the first thing is to find support. There's several different places to look. You're looking at one right now. Your religious organization may have some type of support group. Maybe the leader, your priest, your rabbi, your minister, I think it's an imam. They may have some things that will, that can help you. Maybe you go to a private counselor. I've done both of those. But if you go to a counselor, you got to find somebody who knows what they're talking about. And I had a hard time finding that. I read the same books they did. So there wasn't a lot of help. Where I got the most help was through a support group of people that knew where I was, which in my case was the Compassionate Friends. There are other organizations that do the same. But I would attend these meetings once a month and sit in a room with 8, 10, 20 bereaved parents. We'd all suffered the loss of a child. Different ages, different reasons, but the loss was the same, and we could talk about what we were feeling. How do we take care of that feeling? Is it normal to go sit in your car and scream and yell? The first time I shared that, 2 other people in the room said, I used to do the same thing. And it was like, whoa, I'm normal. All right, then a new normal. So and then also, maybe you have a friend that'll just listen to you. You don't need advice. There is no advice to give. But somebody that'll listen and not come up with some cliche like, well, he's in a better place. He's out of pain. God wanted another angel. That's no help. But you need some type of support. And this can go even if you have not lost a child. Just support for what you're doing now, which is raising somebody else's child. which is a very special calling. Some of you were thrown into the situation, some of you chose the situation. Doesn't make any difference. You're doing something really special because our children need us. They need a stable home. They need a person who loves and cares for them. Okay, I had one more slide. Oh, no, I didn't. That's my last slide. Okay. Yeah, these are just some, things to think about. Take care of yourself. Eat well. Exercise. Get some sleep or at least some rest. I didn't sleep for a long time, but at least you can rest. Express your feelings in a tangible way. We planted a couple of trees. Well, we planted one. There's a tree planted at the church that he was serving at in Corpus. And there's a tree planted out on the University of Houston campus. I made a scrapbook. Y'all can read. I don't have to read to you, right? Be physically healthy. That's pretty. And don't judge yourself. And don't let others judge yourself. Grief is not something you get over in 6 months. It's not something you get over in a year. It's something you get over when you don't ever get over it, but it's something you learn to deal with, and it takes a long time. I really wanted to show this.
Sure.
Do I have 2 more minutes? Okay. Jane Goodall said, without hope, all is lost. And that's true. Anybody recognize this?
Yep.
9/11, right?
Right.
Towards the end of October, as they're cleaning out the steel, the metal, and the dust, and the ash, somebody found this tree. They assumed it was dead. They were going to dig it out, throw it out with the rest of all the stuff they had gathered. And somebody noticed, if you look up towards the top left branch, there's a few leaves on there. This is the end of October. In New York, trees don't put out new leaves the end of October unless they're fighting to live. And this tree was fighting to live. So they set it up. You can see it's got more leaves now. They package it up, and they sent it up to a nursery up in northern Manhattan someplace. They trimmed it down, they planted it, they babied it, they supported it, they took care of it. And this was now, it's 8 years later. But it's a tree now. But it suffered its setbacks. It suffered through Hurricane Sandy, which tried to take it down. And as we grieve, we'll hit points where we're taken down, but we get back up. And this tree did. And that's what it looked like in the summer of 2010. And that fall, or that December, it was returned to the 9/1 Memorial Plaza. And it's a living symbol of the hope and resilience, which is the ability to recover and bounce back after change or difficult circumstances. That's after it's replanted. It's got its scars, though. Its trunk is black. You can see where it lost a ton of leaves. And those scars are permanent. They're never going to go away. As it grows, they may fade some, but they're always there. We're always going to carry the scars. It puts out beautiful blossoms in the spring. I call it its mask. It's covering up its scars. I cover up my scars. I put on a mask when I go out, when I meet new people. Summertime, it's beautiful green, but its scars will always be there. And we don't have time for this, and I don't know if it'll play, so I'm not going to worry about it, and I'm done.
Do y'all have time for questions or no? Do we have time for questions? We are running behind. I know I know y'all smell the food. Yeah. Kelly, they might have questions and
I'll hang around and they can ask.
Oh, that's
talk
sweet.
Later if
Okay.
you want.
Kelly, you can come on if you want.
Do you have a recording of what you showed with that tree? Because that would be so good with kids that have gone through, so many different people need to see that. And I was just wondering, do you have a recording of that where we can just share that?
I can send it out. The last thing that I didn't show is a little 2-minute video where the tree is talking about what it's been through. And it's a children's video, but the words are powerful. But I can send it to anybody that would like it. I have to tell you, I don't have permission to use those pictures in any kind of a retail situation. But I just pulled them off the internet and, read a lot. But it is a powerful story of that tree, and I'm going to go to New York just to see that tree. But if you will see me later, I'll give you my card, and you can send me an email, and I'll send it to you. It's just a PowerPoint. Yes, do you have a question?
Oh, I have a question for the Bellis rep. I recognize that the help you're providing to, in my case, the parent who is no longer with their children. And I want to know that does Bellis also provide for the other side, for us who are dealing, we have to deal with these parents on a day-to-day basis, and it's like, okay, I'm full of anger, I'm full of resentment that, after 10 years you're back and the kids are like, Mommy's here, and I'm like, you didn't change one diaper, you didn't, feed a fever, you didn't do anything. So is that within y'all's spec? Do you provide those kind of things for the other side?
Is she frozen?
Is she frozen?
She's on mute. She's
I
muted.
think she's frozen.
We'll get you their information so that way you can follow up with them. I think we lost.
But is there anyone who could, any resources here? Oh, there she is. Kelly, did you hear that? Kelly, did you hear the question?
Did you hear the question, Kelly? Are you able to hear us? Okay.
No, I didn't hear the question.
I am so sorry. Go ahead,
My
baby.
question was, I understand that you provide the service on the other end for the parent, to help them heal.
Yes.
But I want to know, and you touched base a little bit on the other side, for us, for the caregiver who, now that 10 years later my parent is back and the kids are, oh, Mom, so wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm full of anger, resentment, because you didn't change one diaper, you didn't, help with the colds, the nightmares, and, the abandonment that you were gone, trauma of you leaving. So I want to know if there's any resources on our end, because now, and my kids are older now, and they're, becoming tweens. They're tweens, and it's really hard. And it's hard for me to keep it together because Mom is now, she's a hero. She's back.
Right,
So.
right. No, and that frustration is so valid, and that anger and all of the feelings. Because I'm in Minnesota, there's a couple of resources here in Minnesota, like I said, through the place where I used to work, Children's Home. It has some, and as far as I know, people from anywhere could possibly join those, so that might be something to look at. It's Children's Home of Minnesota. Unfortunately, I am not aware of anything down in Texas, but yeah, I think that there is 100% that need for that, because everything that you are saying is completely valid, and just for that understanding, and it's hard for you then to not want to project that onto the biological parent and be like, you can't just come in here and expect, everything to just fall back into place again, and to not, and then that causes a rupture in that relationship as well. So, no, it is a super tricky dynamic to walk. And to help that biological parent too, to understand that, you know, while we're glad that you're doing better, there's been this whole stretch of time that you were not here, you did not deal with any of this. So how do we move forward as a unit, but recognizing, you know, that it wasn't there? And again, I think for that biological parent, that shame component is so, like, they're aware. They know that they have not been there for the last 10 years, but that shame component is so high that they're either going to stay away, or when they come back, they're going to pretend like nothing ever happened. Oh, look, I'm back and everything is good. And because to address that fact that they haven't been there is completely overwhelming to them. And so for them to get the support too, to be able to own that their mistakes, to be able to own that fact that they were not there, and to be able to own that, and I think that level of recognition and ownership on their part, and correct me if I'm wrong, would be hugely healing for you as the caregiver for the last however many years. It's just that acknowledgement of, I was not here. You're 100% right. And how can we move forward together in this instead of pretending like it just doesn't exist?
And I love what Kelly said, and in Texas, you know, we got everything here in Texas. And in this room, Texas grandparents raising grandchildren, we have those peer support groups. We have the peer support panel, and you probably can come up here and join them. You're more than welcome to, but also Depulsion. They have their newly minted kinship, and they have their monthly groups. And I've sat in on them, they are fantastic. So come visit our table, we'll give you some information, and definitely connect with Depulsion deeper if you're not already connected. And like Kelly said, all those groups are not just trauma dumping, but it's those real conversations, like you said, because a lot of people feel guilty about. Kudos to you for even saying that, because some people won't even say that or use different language, but you're being so honest. So yes, Texas GRG and connect with Depulsion, that will give you their schedule. But we want you caregivers, don't bottle it in. Just like Patricia said, it's going to come out in some way, and you don't want it to come out another way. We want to have a healthy, cathartic moment. And Kelly, just thank you so much. The guys, I apologize. We're going to feed you in a second. Anything else before Kelly or Patricia?
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Way behind time, but we're going to catch back up. So now we are about to break for lunch, but before we do break for lunch, and breaking for lunch, we do want to let our families go first, then our vendors, and then our volunteers. And we do have 2 announcements that we are going to make for lunch, and also some recognitions that we want to give. So Dr. Jackson can come up with Monarch Family Services to make an announcement, and then we have 2 individuals that we would like to recognize and then go for slideshow for Monarch.
Oh my God.
Good morning. Well, good morning. I am Dr. Valerie Jackson. I'm the founder and CEO of Monarch Family Services. We are a kinship-based agency. So we do have kinship navigation programming. We have, it's actually not a slideshow. It's a, and we have home licensing for kinship families, and then also post permanency services for kinship families. I'm here today because I am also the principal investigator of a statewide kinship research. And so what we're looking at with our research is, why do kinship caregivers decide not to go through the licensing process, even though they might qualify? Here in Texas, we're only are licensing about 4 to 6% of relative caregivers that qualify for home licensing. So that means that the 95% are deciding not to do it, not to go through it for whatever reason. And so we are evaluating that 95%, but also the 5% that do, because we want to know Why do they decide not to go through the home licensing process? And also the counter of it. Why do you decide to actually go through the home licensing process? The idea behind this research, the statewide research, is to, again, see what the barriers are, what are stopping or prohibiting caregivers to participate or not wanting to participate, and then we can inform the state, local, agency, DFPS, all, how can we encourage and better our processes in order to engage more kinship caregivers in the home licensing process. Comes with lots of benefits, but again, more than about 95% on average kinship caregivers that qualify for this process say, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get more involved with the state. I don't want I know it comes with financial benefits. Or what we're starting to find out through our interview process is they're told right off the bat they don't qualify, which is not true. Lies. And so we want to try to increase that number from only 4 to 6% of caregivers participating to more of a more inclusive number. Of course, minimizing at 95% of those that forego it. And so I don't see my slideshow, but we do have opportunities open for kinship caregivers that are willing to provide their lived experience in order for us to have more and more data. We're looking for 50 participants. I think we're around 15 right now. That's my research assistant right there. So about 15, we're at 15 to 16 participants already, so we still need another, do the math on that, 35 I think? Okay, 35 participants. We are giving an incentive of $100 for your participation, okay? So there's a $100 incentive just to know what your story is. You just want to know your story. And the email, well, I don't know how we're going to do it, I don't know if you remember the email address, but the email address is researchlab at Monarch, and Monarch is spelled MONARCH, familyservices.org. So again, researchlab at monarchfamilyservices.org. Are you guys sending out emails after this conference? Okay, so I'll make sure to resend the flyer for research participants. So if you're interested, again, we're looking for kinship caregivers that have either decided not to go through the licensing process, they may qualify for it, or those that went through the licensing process. And so one reason you did decide, but those that, especially our particular population are targeted for those that did not decide, and the reason why. So we are, that will take long. So again, research lab at monarchfamilyservices.org. I'm also talking to the agencies that are here too, so if you have any caregivers that might want to participate. We are giving a $100 incentive, meaning that we are providing it through Cash App or Zelle or Venmo or whatever else. whatever my little youngins have come up with how to disseminate money these days. We used to just give cash, but also almost 50. So, at any rate, please let those know. The more data, the better. We really want to make a change to this system, child welfare system. It should be a more kid-friendly or kid-focused system. And so we have possibly new licensing standards coming in the fall of this year for licensing kinship homes. And so we have opportunity, but still, if kinship caregivers are not getting the right information, we will not see the movement of more relative caregivers becoming licensed. So we got to make sure we give that information correctly so that they are willing to participate more in a program that really benefits the whole entire family. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. And anyone needs to, contact Monarch. We do have research assistant here, Armani and Dr. Jackson, and if they end up leaving and you're looking for them, just let me know, and I'll make sure to get you connected to Monarch Family Services for those that are interested in a study. And so now we would quickly like to recognize 2 individuals Our first one, we are celebrating our youth, Mr. Hudson. Is he here? All right, come on up, Mr. Hudson. We want to acknowledge Mr. Hudson and with juvenile justice program. So we just want to take the time, Mr. Hudson, to recognize you and all the hard work that you have done. And, kind of give you a moment. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. Sweetheart, just accept your award and your gift. But we do just want to acknowledge you and thank you for all of your hard work and dedication that you have poured into yourself to make yourself a better youth despite what you've been through. So thank you. All right, and then we would also like to acknowledge, is anyone from Bethel's Heavenly Hands here? Bethel's Heavenly Hands. Okay, so we just wanted to acknowledge them. They are a church located on the south side of Houston. They allowed us to utilize their church for the Christmas toy drive that we had. That was a great turnout. So we do, even though they're not here, we do just want to acknowledge them for allowing, for helping us out with our Christmas toy drive from last year. All right, so now it is lunchtime. So let's go, get your food and come back in here and eat. And we will also do a raffle during, if we have time, but if not, we will go ahead and proceed with panel 3.
So you're part of the reason? Yes, ma'am. Is this for kids with CPS involvement or not? Yes. Okay. It can be both. Oh, okay. So I have no CPS involvement. That's fine. But okay, so that's still an option. Did you guys send out? It's been a while ago, but I thought you sent out something and looking for participants. I thought I said yes, but anyways, I didn't. I'm not. Yeah, I thought so. Oh, Robin Welsh, but I'm not. I haven't ever been contacted. So.
Okay. The name doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm definitely interested. So I'll just email you or?
Yes, so I will come back to you.
Okay, that's fine.
Bring it up here. Okay guys, we are in lunch mode and let's walk around and look at some tables. Lunchtime. Okay, I'm gonna walk around. Can you be on? Can you live? Yeah, can you be on a live on Facebook?
Like to talk or say something? Or?
Just wave or say whatever you do. Okay. All right. Okay, here's what Dr. Jackson was talking about for that
that research, please indulge in that if you would like that. Look at all our gifts. Look at all our gifts, guys. I tell you, we don't play around. Texas GRG, we have the potion. They are volunteering at my table. So sweet, thank y'all. Okay, our vendors, if you're ready to eat, and guests, come on. Vendors and the rest of our guests, please come on and eat. You hear me ringing the Chuck wagon bell? Let's do a scan of these tables and all the wonderful people here. You gonna get something to eat? And Arms Wide, one of our rap members. So who do you think has the best table? Who do you think has the best table? Let's go and take a look at, well, let's start over here. Family Alliance is in the house. This is one of our faithful rap members. She helped do all the food for the kitchen, for the breakfast, and then the lunch. Couldn't have done it without her, sorry. Texas Grandparents Raising Grandchildren, sponsored by the Potion. They're sitting at my table. And so check it out. They got the carnival theme. All right. And this is Pathways. Good to see you. Let's take a look at your table. Let's get a shot of your information. Anything you want us to know? Perfect. And Pathways, we have been using them as a resource forever. So I love shouting them out. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go over here. Let's go over here to, I won't film this. I don't think they like being filmed. But this is, we used to call it a clinic for kids in foster care, formally informal, but it's Harris County Resources for Children and Adults. You can go on their website. They have a lot of great resources. And again, this is Arms Wide. Let's look at their table, their carnival theme. And if you have any questions online, let us know. Please, please, please let us know. Okay, let's take a look at West Oak's table.
I want to say I absolutely love this dress.
Isn't that cute?
Isn't it nice?
Nice and comfy.
And you got locks too. Oh my God, nice. I'm coming.
No, that's okay. So we will check out the rest of the tables in a second.
I'm so sorry. That's okay. I think I misunderstood when I was supposed to bring it. I bought a $50 gift card. I bought two $25 gift cards.
That's up to you.
And I bought a bag.
That is up to you.
But I put anchors in it though.
It don't matter. We have families, and if if they can't use it, then but we'll let them know. Okay, this is for an infant.
Infant, yes.
Right.
For infant,
Yeah. But yeah.
Stuff like that in there.
And that's okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. I thought.
Thank you so much. That's a beautiful gift.
I can send the TJ Maxx. That's what's inside the house.
Oh, okay.
They filmed,
All right, we're going to start with Dr. Glenda's panel in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
And Ilka, that's it.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Is Ilka here?
Yeah, she's right there. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me go look at some more tables. So which table do you think is the best decorated? Which table do you think is the best decorated? And let's look at some of their information. They have a wheel to spin, man. They got everything. They not playing. I love it. And again, this is Arrow. Buckner, great organization. Let's see what they have. After school, they have a great after school program. I know about it, especially for teens. Okay, and this is, oh yeah, first 3 years, Save Babies. Another RAP member. They are fantastic. I love how they connect families and try to keep the static down. Molina, looking forward to working with them. Healthcare options for insurance providers. Okay, let's get some of their information. Okay, and Houston Strong Children's Services. And Texas ABA Centers, they are going to be speaking next. Dr. Montalvo about autism awareness. So you can go sit up there whenever you want, Ilka, because we're going to start in a second. So this is one of our just favorite RAP members. Houston ISD is now the Sunrise Center, formerly the Student and Family Support Services. Of course, they rebranded. And Ilka Rosado is one of our OG RAP members. Let me let you take a look at her flyers. And Texas Georgia, yes, that's us. We're going to be doing an information session on the 27th next week, so make sure you come out and get that. And they have also over here at Brock, look at this, guys. Don't say you don't have anywhere to get anything to eat. They have their free food distributions. So check that out. And you can always DM RAP, and if you didn't get a chance to get that. But they also have adult computer classes. So they have so much over there at the Brock. Okay, here we'll have it in Spanish as well, English classes. And so you see where they're located, 1419 Houston Avenue. Please contact them. And this is at no cost. This is your tax dollars at work, so use it. Okay, let's go over here. Okay, are we ready for our next panel? I'm sorry to be yelling. Okay, so this is Maximus, and let's take a look at some of our, what that man there? That man in there. Let me be quiet. So this is some of their information. And so you see what they provide. They're like the clearinghouse, if you will, for the kids' services, right? And let's take one more look at their information. And let's take a look at Family Roots for Life.
I can hit something after I walk.
And this is another great RAP member, Family Roots for Life. They do, let's look at some of they really help the kids mature with mentorship, people who have lived experiences, financial literacy, and things such as that. So check them out as well. They are a great resource and a RAP member. Shout out to them. And let's go to a new vendor. Let's look at them. Dear Mixed Girl, let's take a look at their, can you be out there? Let's take a look at their information. Okay, we're not gonna film him. You say he's in the middle of chowing down, guys. Okay, let's take a look at, I just say give them the doggone award. I think you and Arrow are gonna fight it out for. So look, they got the, girl, I love this. They got the games. Surprised nobody came up here and played the games. So, Dr. Allen, just tell us a little bit about Anyway. Dr. Allen, just real quick say something, because you're one of our newer rap members, well, vendors. So just say a little quick something. Oh, wow. I love it. That was a good elevator pitch. She had it, babe. She was ready. So let's take a little bit of the literature. And where can they find you? Are you on social media or okay? Look up my name or Dear Mix Girl. You'll find me everywhere. I love that. You got to cover all your bases. And let's take another look at their poster. Thank you for coming, Dr. Allen. All right, I think we made our way around, so let's get back and take a look at our next speaker, autism awareness. Dr. Glenda, you ready? Yeah, y'all together. Yeah. What was this? Okay.
All right. I know everyone is settling down. Everyone is eating. Because of our time, we're going to go ahead and get started with our next panel. We have panel number 3, which is Dr. Glenda Montalvo with Autism Awareness Texas Applied Behavioral Analyst Centers in Katy. And then we also have Ms. Ilka Rosado with Houston ISD Sunrise Center Rock Site.
Is it Sugarland or Katy?
We are actually in the Sugarland location.
Okay, I thought so.
But there are several locations.
Okay, all right, thank you. Hey guys, we're going to try to work this out together.
I'm going to just read Dr. Glenda's bio really quickly. Dr. Glenda Montalvo, ND-BCBA LBA, is a licensed behavior analyst with 15 plus years of experience in clinical, school, and in-home settings. She has a background in medicine with a doctorate of medicine degree in addition to being a board-certified behavior analyst, allowing further individualization of ABA treatment or clients. I can't speak this morning. Oh, that's just a Spanish. Is the clicker working to go to the next slide, guys? Oh, okay, there we go. So welcome to you, Dr. Glenda. Autism spectrum disorder. You want to go ahead and just speak. I'll read this. Autism doesn't come with an instruction guide. It comes with a family who will never give up. And that is so true. I am a grandmother of an autistic grandson, so that is so very true. Next slide. Okay, all right.
All right, so before I get started, I'd like to say I very much dislike public speaking. So, Ms. Moya, this is special just for you, wherever you are. I thank you for the opportunity. There's only 2 topics where I will get up and do public speaking. One is God. I've been a Sunday school teacher up through adults, and the other is autism. So thank you, Ms. Moya, for the opportunity. I would like to make this conversational, if at all possible. I like to answer questions. I don't like to just read from a screen. So I'm glad that you shared that you have had this experience. Has anybody here known a family member or a friend that has autism? Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the incidence of autism, what it is, the areas where we see individuals impacted, and what we do to support. So specifically myself, and I'll ask Leilani if you could please stand up, and then Ms. Karita. We are Texas, ABA Centers of Texas, and from here, I'm going directly to work to a family, so I won't be available later for questions, but Ms. Leilani and Ms. Karita will be. So I ask that if you do have any additional questions, please reach out to them if you're interested in our services. So just to get started, so you know a little bit about me. I'm very, very passionate about helping those that have this condition. Not only is this an area that I see that is really needing help and support for families and individuals, but Ms. Moya, I thank you because I also come from a situation where I've had to have my grandparents help a little bit. So just so you know, I originally was born in El Salvador, and at the age of 1.5, my mother and father had to leave because of the Civil War back then. So my grandparents raised me from 1.5 years till 4.5 when I was able to go. So family involvement is key. It's not just mom and dad, it's all caregivers that are involved. So you'll see in my slides, I don't typically say parents, I say caregivers, right? And so that's quote, that first quote where it says autism doesn't come with an instruction guide, it comes with a family who will never give up. That is an actual individual with autism that said that. Now, the next slide, what is autism? I have parents ask me that question even though they have a child that is directly affected with it. And they ask me, is it genetic? Is it the environment? What caused it? To be perfectly honest, we're still not very sure what the cause is. I will tell parents because sometimes parents will identify certain characteristics within themselves. Oftentimes there is one parent, either the mother or the father, that has some characteristics of autism. Also, if you've had one child with autism, there's an increased risk you might have another child with autism. So there is the potential, there is a genetic factor, but the theory is that it's a combination of genetic and environmental factors. So it is a neurodevelopmental condition. It happens somewhere in the womb. What we know is that the neurons, the way that they're connected in individuals with autism is different than ours. So I like to phrase it, I've heard it before, and I don't know who I stole it from, but you're looking at iOS versus Android. It's a different connection. It's not to say that learning cannot happen. It can, but the approach has to be different. So, another important thing about autism, it does not discriminate. It happens in all countries, all socioeconomic levels. It doesn't matter what religion, it doesn't matter what race, you see it everywhere. And the current incidence is 1 in 36 children. That is up from 1 in 44. And it continues to rise. Now, what is the importance of that? The more that you see it, the more you will be impacted, the more society will be impacted by it. And we need to find ways to ameliorate symptoms, and we need to find ways to address the needs of these individuals so that as they become adults, we as caregivers, right, we're not going to be here forever, can fade out our presence and they can become more independent. Now, another important fact is boys are 4 times more likely than girls to have autism. I was just with Leilani at a school, a Montessori school, where I think she was the principal, asked, why is it more in girls than boys? So those of us that study biology or remember science know that women have, or girls have, 2 X chromosomes. And so what happens is that one of the X chromosomes can kind of cover the deficits on the other chromosome. Now, with boys, they only have 1. So if there's something wrong with one part, they really have no assistance. And so they tend to show those symptoms more. Now, the next slide, I want to talk about why it's important to know about autism. I work with a lot of different cultures. a lot of different caregivers. And depending on where you're from, I see that sometimes there's stigma still associated with this diagnosis. And when there is stigma, it prevents caregivers to reach out for treatment. And so part of what we like to do is educate so that the knowledge is there, it's talked about, it's not hidden, to start to remove that stigma. In addition, we want to educate so that there's awareness. Part of that incidence also, I believe, is caregivers are becoming more aware that this may be autism, and so they're actually seeking out treatment. And another reason it's important is if we don't address these deficits, what's going to happen in the long term, they're going to have to need help well into adulthood, right? If we don't teach them those functional skills or those executive skills that we heard about earlier when they were talking about grief and loss, they're not going to be able to function independently. The other reason we educate on this is we like to let families and other caregivers know what are the supports that are out there. We actually work right now with a social service person that can actually provide additional services. So I do recommend, if you can, to reach out to us where we could give you some guidance on that. And then the last and possibly the most important reason is we want to make sure that our individuals have the best clinical outcomes. They come with us with deficits, a lot of them with problem behaviors that do not allow them to even function in a school setting. And so our goal is to give them that independence to be able to function and contact those natural environments where they otherwise wouldn't be able to. All right, so now we're going to talk about the specifics of autism. Autism comes with 3 core deficits. The very first one is communication. The second one is social skills. And the third one is repetitive and restrictive behaviors. So I'll touch a little bit on each one. There is also, in addition to those deficits, different presentations. Sometimes we have parents tell us, you know what, they were able to stand up, they were able to crawl, they were able to sit up, but there was some speech delay. Or there's some articulation deficits. And there's other parents that come to us and they say, you know what, for the first 2 years they were perfectly fine, and then I saw some regression. And so that's why we get that thought or that theory where people say, oh, it's the vaccines, because it happens about the same time. But it's as they are developing that they say, oh, now we see the problems. That's another pattern of presentation. And the last pattern of presentation is when they're diagnosed later in life. I have adults that I work with that have autism. I have adults that I work with that are clinical directors that have autism. I have adults that I work with that they work in cybersecurity. So the skills that they have can actually benefit them in different aspects, in different work areas and skills. But that's a potential as well, that you may not even be aware that you have autism. Now, my goal is not to reach out to those individuals because they're functioning just fine. It's the ones that are needing help. All right, so what are some of the initial signs? Let's go to the next slide. Now, this is by no means comprehensive. These are some of the typical signs you might see. So I'm going to ask any of you, as you read these, have you observed this in a child as you are caregiving? Not smiling, not orienting when you call their name, maybe spinning around in circles, or lining up toys. You tend to see that probably in the toddler years. In addition to that, you might start to see some problem behavior, because what happens is, if they're not able to communicate their wants and needs, they're going to engage in a behavior that will get your attention. So it could be tantrum, it could be aggression, it could be head banging. Every behavior that we see, anything that we engage in, is communication. If I stand up and I leave, I'm saying something with that. I'm saying I'm not interested, or I'm saying I don't want that. It is communication. And so that's where ABA comes in. We're looking at the behavior and we're identifying what they're trying to say, and we give them the skills to say it the right way. Now let's look at some signs in adolescence. As our children with autism get older, the presentation may change a little bit. Oftentimes we see that they will isolate because they don't have those social skills and they might feel awkward. They have that social pressure to perform, but they don't know how. We have behavioral outbursts, meltdowns, emotional responding, crying. And if they don't learn the appropriate behaviors to say, I need a break, or I don't want to do this, we're going to see those behaviors from childhood get more intense and get more frequent. So we'll see aggression, we'll see self-injury. And as they get older and the kids get stronger, the parents also have difficulty dealing with these behaviors. And so sometimes in the late presentations, we'll have parents come and their child is 7, 8, 10 years old, and the intensity and frequency is a serious problem. All right, so now let's talk about the specific areas. We'll start with deficits in communication. Thank you. So receptive language is how we receive language. If somebody gives an instruction, or if somebody says, hey, what is this? Water bottle, and you understand, you receive it, that's receptive language. A lot of our children don't understand what words mean, so you're talking to them and you're using these long sentences and they're completely lost. Expressive language is actually saying what something is, which is labeling, calling someone a chair, knowing what pronouns are, what prepositions are. That's expressive language. And then we have functional communication. This is extremely essential. So this is somebody being able to state their wants and needs, saying, I need a break, I need to use the restroom. Introverbals are a little more complex. So you need the first two skills to get to introverbals. Introverbals are back and forth introverbal exchanges. So if I say, hi, how are you? And you respond to me, it's that back and forth. And then that leads to the conversational skills. I sometimes will get parents that come to me and say, will my child ever be able to talk? And I say, we have a lot of steps to get there, to get that conversation. And so I break it down for them this way. The next slide, these are deficits we see in social skills. Some of our kids, like I said, sometimes they'll line up toys, or they have repetitive behaviors where I have a kid right now, all he wants to do is play in the tub with water. Some of our kids love water. They love to see it go down the drain. That also can present a danger. I don't know if y'all have seen in the news sometimes, children going out to like community pond or community lakes, right? So we have to teach them boundaries. We have to teach them what is appropriate, what's not appropriate, to request, right? If they do want to engage in water play with adult supervision, for them to be able to request. Individuals with autism are not able to read a face. They're not able to understand that you're angry, or that you're happy, or that you don't want to talk about something, or that when you look at your watch, you're done with that topic. And so we have to teach them those skills as well. Also, understanding and following social norms and navigating peer and adult relationships. They don't know what's expected of them really, because they kind of retreat into their own world. So we provide them opportunities to practice, and we present different scenarios. And then the last area, these are repetitive and restrictive behaviors. So within that retreating into themselves, they are not able to discover novel activities. So that's something that we also have to teach them. There's a whole world of things that you could do that are leisure activities, that are age-appropriate activities. If not, what's going to happen, sometimes you'll get a 25-year-old that's still watching Elmo, right? And so that is an area where we also intervene. Another area is executive functioning. We were talking about earlier with grief and loss. Things like planning out your day, making a call to make an appointment, right? Those are all things that you have to do to be able to function independently. If nobody teaches you that, we have adults that will never be able to manage their day. All right, now let's talk about who is able to diagnose. I've had a conversation where the impression is that any physician is able to diagnose autism, and that's not so. You actually have to have special training to diagnose autism. You have special assessments that you can do. And so I listed a few, but that list is not exhaustive. It's not complete. So some of them may be a pediatrician, a neurologist, developmental neurologist, psychologist, psychiatrist. And in general, if you go to your doctor or you go to your pediatrician and you say, you know what, I'm seeing these symptoms and it's a little off, could you refer me? More than likely, they can refer you to someone that could actually do an assessment and say if that is the diagnosis. Now, the problem with that tends to be that the wait lists are long. So my advice, those symptoms that I mentioned, is the sooner you see it, the earlier you see it, the better for you to go and look for treatment. And the reason for that, just to share, because I see the little ones, I've worked with the ones that are a year and 11 months, 2 years, 3 years, versus kiddos that are already 10, 12. They've established a pattern of behavior that's really difficult to break. And so the sooner that we get that early intervention, the better for them. All right, so let's talk about the symptoms. Recognition of symptoms. You as caregivers are what we consider frontline observers. So you are probably going to be the first people to say, oh, you know what, I see that they don't give that eye contact. Or I see that they don't interact with their peers. And if you've had or cared for another child, you already have an expectation of what their skill level should be at a certain age. So you're able to compare a little bit. First-time parents is a little more difficult because they really can't compare much unless they have cousins or more extended family. So you are frontline observers, as are teachers, as are school psychologists. The next step, once you observe those symptoms, is to look for that diagnosis. Potentially they may not have it. Some kids have little perks or have little phases, and the possibility is that it may not be autism. But if it is, you want to make sure you get that diagnosis. And then the third thing is you want to get that referral. So when you get to your doctor, if they're not able to do that assessment, you request a referral. The last thing, and the most important thing, is to find an ABA provider, Applied Behavior Analysis. That is the one research-based treatment that we have for autism. We're not saying it's the sole treatment because we work in collaboration with speech therapists, occupational therapists, we work with physical therapists. It's not the sole thing, we work in collaboration, but it's the one research-based treatment that we have for autism. My advice to parents and caregivers is you will always be the advocate for your child. Be selective, be informed, make an informed decision. ABA has a very short history when you compare it to other fields like medicine. And we've come a long way in that short history, but still, you want to make sure that your behavior analyst is flexible with you, meets your needs, takes the family unit into account, and not just the individual. So make an informed decision. Now, let's look at what happens next. So once you find an ABA provider that you feel is the right match for you and your family, we as behavior analysts will do an assessment. That assessment will identify the following items. It will identify the skills and deficits and behaviors that we have to work on. It will inform whether we only need a few hours of treatment or we need a comprehensive treatment where it's going to be language and behaviors and social skills. As we talked about autism spectrum disorder, some kids have 2 or 3 really strong skills and maybe one or two that are deficits. And some kiddos just need help across the board. So that will determine how many hours we need of treatment per week. The next thing is the schedule and mode of treatment. We offer kind of a hybrid model. And it doesn't have to be just in center. It doesn't have to be just in home. We're able to work with the family, but not all clinics are like that. Not all centers are like that. There's a lot of center-based treatment. So you have to kind of figure out what works best for you. The next thing is it also informs the length of treatment. So once I meet with a family and I assess skills, I can get an idea about how much length of time they're going to need of treatment. Is it going to be something that's going to be 6 months? There's kids that are doing fairly well, but they have problems with social skills. That may be something that might just need 6 months to a year of treatment. There may be other kids that are just have fallen so far behind that we're playing catch up, and I know it might be 2 or 3 years. So that assessment also informs length of treatment. Next slide. The one before. Yes. So what is the goal? I don't know if you've ever heard that expression, lose the label. That is actually not a thing. When you have autism, you will live with autism for the rest of your life. What we do is we teach you the tools so that you can function successfully. ABA is not a miracle drug. It's not something that will function by itself. We have to have participation. We are looking for a collaborative environment where caregivers are involved, and it's very individualized. What success looks for one family is not the same for another family. So we need to identify as behavior analysts, what is this family's needs, what are they needing versus this family, and then we individualize that treatment for them. The two areas that we work on are skill acquisition and behavior management. And this is how it works. As our children acquire skills, the problem behaviors will go down because they're now able to communicate their wants and needs, where before they were using the problem behaviors to communicate their wants and needs. So we see this happen. And as we see this happen, then we say, okay, now we can start to kind of push you off to that school setting and we can start feeding back. Now, what does our treatment look like? So, the very first thing that we target is the one-on-one work with the client. So this is something that you're not going to see in the school setting. In special ed classes or even early intervention, typically what you see is a teacher, paraprofessionals, and maybe 7, 8 kiddos in those rooms. We do one-on-one treatment. In addition to that, we do what we call natural environment teaching. If you see how a child learns, typically they learn through play. They're not going to learn sitting. A 2 or 3-year-old and have them sitting at a table that's not appropriate. They will learn through play, and so we provide those opportunities. The next component is where I was saying we have to collaborate with families, is the caregiver training. So we teach parents, we teach caregivers how to manage those problem behaviors. We review what we're working on, goal by goal, and we have an expectation with caregiver involvement. We also collaborate with other providers, which I mentioned before, and we continue to reassess. So it's not a one-time assessment. We can continue to reassess every 6 months to see how they're progressing. Let's talk about some limitations and barriers to treatment. So if there's no recognition of symptoms, that's a potential barrier to getting treatment. Another problem that we see sometimes is we'll have a prescription and say, this child needs 20 hours of treatment, but the family can only do 10 hours because they may prioritize school over ABA. So under-treatment sometimes can be a problem. Or sometimes there's families that prioritize other types of treatments. that can be a problem as well. Or not having the education to look for symptoms of autism. So all of those are limitations to treatment. So how are we different as a company? We not only provide treatment in center, we provide it in home, we provide it in the community. So let's say a family's having difficulty at church, a family's having difficulty in a restaurant. We go to those different locations and help. In addition, like I mentioned before, it's hybrid. It doesn't have to be just in center. And in addition, we will actually have our technicians go with the client. They can take an Uber to go where they need to go, as long as an adult is present at drop-off and pickup. And what are some of our endeavors as well? Not all companies do this, is events like this. So we are actively educating, we're reaching out, we're marketing, and we are also expanding. If you could go to the next slide. So these are our locations. We do have Katy, Pearland, and Sugar Land. We have Plano and we have Austin. Sometimes as we grow, we can contact some growing pains, right? As far as we have to make sure we have the right technician for the right client. So it can take a little bit of time, but what I've seen with this company is the wait times are much decreased compared to other companies. So in that aspect, I'm thankful and I'm grateful, and I'm grateful that I was able to present to you. If you look at the next slide, you will see our contact information. Leilani is the executive director. I'm the clinical director, so anything clinical comes to me. Anything regarding how we function, schedules, all other information goes to Leilani. But I want to thank you just for the opportunity of sharing what it is that we do, my passion, and I hope that maybe you can share some of this as well. And if you need the help, that you know that we're there for you. All right, thank you.
I did not submit my bio in time, so I'll tell you real quick. I need to know. My name is Ilka Rosado. I've been with Houston ISD for over 15 years. My current role is a coordinator, so we have this new initiative called Sunrise Centers where we have 7 locations district-wide. I'll go into that briefly in a moment. I know we're short on time, so I'm going to talk really fast. But I have information in the corner you can always come over there and get. We do all types of events. We try to do things every single month, every single week for support to our parents and to caregivers, relatives, homeless, foster care, all things foster care, homeless, we do it with the district, with HISD. So I've been with the district over 15 years. I'm a parent. I have 4 children. I'm also a grandmother. And I'm not raising my grandchild, but I do help my daughter with raising her grandchild. I'm involved heavily with my kids' school. I've been a PTO president at the Rice School for 3 years. I think this is going to be it for me. I don't think I can do much more. And just working with the district, working with Moya, the RAP Coalition, we've done a lot of events. We've done a lot of supporting events for our homeless students, our foster care students. I work closely with DFPS, the education specialist, for all the different regions, ensuring that as kids come and go, that we are ensuring that they're enrolled properly, that they know their school of origin rights, because they do have them just like our homeless students have them. And because this is kind of relatives as parents in a different realm, it's not quite, legal custody, it's more of a physical custody situation. So we make sure that the schools understand what your rights are when you enroll. They have school of origin rights, if you want them to return to a specific school. We make sure that they get their transportation, which is key, which is usually the biggest issue is transportation. Keeping them enrolled, making sure that they have all of the things that they need, the support that they need to be successful in school. Those things include uniform supplies and assessments with special education. We work closely with the SPED chairs at every campus. It's hard to say what you can get at one campus versus another, which is why a lot of the education specialists reach out to us and ask for assistance, because everything is case by case. And every campus has a special education chair.
Hey
They have
Betty,
people
hey
that are at the
FRFL.
campus to support. And we ensure that if they need an art, they're gonna get an art. If they need different assessments, we get that. If we need to get education and special education records from a previous district or previous state, we work with DFPS to get those records to the school so they can properly accommodate our foster care students, our homeless students. So if you want to go into the, I'm not going to really go through the presentation for the sake of time, but I do want you to know that HISD does have this department. We're under the Sunrise Center umbrella. We were previously student assistants. We got absorbed with this new superintendent under the initiative of Sunrise Centers. There are 7 locations district-wide. They're one-stop shops for services and support, not just for homeless and foster care students, but any student in need. We provide all types of support. Every center is unique. I happen to coordinate 2 sites, the one at Rock and the one at Cornerstone Community, which is located at Buckner Reed. We have an office in there that's open to the Worthing feeder pattern as well as the Yates feeder pattern schools, but it's open to anybody. We don't turn anybody away if you happen to go to any one of our locations. We have one inside of Baker Ripley on the southwest side, Boys and Girls Club on the southeast side, Office Solinsky. We have one at, of course, I just mentioned the Brock site, which is the central one. It's off of Houston Avenue. We have one also, Mission Millie on the east end, YDC on the north side, Youth Development Center on Brettshire, near Homestead, and then we have our YMCA over there off of West Orem. So these sites are located in different centers all over the district so people can get to them. But the goal is to give these services and support to all of our students. And to let you know that I am the foster care liaison. We also have a homeless liaison. Her name is Lisa Jackson. We work very closely together because a lot of times, especially with relatives as parents, the students technically qualify under McKinney-Vento. But if you have some type of, which enables them to get all of the services and support in the McKinney-Vento Act, but also if you happen to have some type of conservatorship over the child, I can also step in to help assist with those if you're in HISD. Every district, surrounding district, has a homeless and a foster care liaison. By law, they must. If you don't know who that person is, you can always go on the TEA website and do a search, and you can find out who that person is for a specific district. We have all those resources available at our office. We have a whole listing for people.
Thank you, FRFL. Appreciate the shout out.
Different contacts in different districts. We know that a lot of our students live in one district, attend in another, so we do a lot of collaborating among districts. So we assist, if you can go to this is a form that's very important. It's in every enrollment packet for every single student in HISD, whether they're homeless or not. It's part of enrollment. Anytime a student moves to another campus, withdraws and re-enrolls, they're gonna get this form. This is a form that our office uses. It's called the Student Residency Questionnaire. And on there it has, at the top, under the student data, you can put if there's a caseworker involved, or if they're in a group home setting, all that goes there. Part A talks about the living situation. Are they living with a relative? Are they living with family? Are they living in a motel? What's the living situation so we can determine what's needed? And then Part B goes into some background, what led to it, domestic situation, new to town, whatever the situation might be, parent incarcerated. A lot of parents become incarcerated. The state does have a program that's called Children of Incarcerated Parents that every district has to adopt. It's a PEAMS indicator, as well as parenting students, foster care students, homeless. All of these are what we call special populations that are entitled to specific services. So on Part C of this form, that's where you put what's needed, how can we help? It goes over all of the different services that we can provide. This form, every single student has one in there, what's called a cumulative folder. It's where all of their information goes. So our job is also to train district staff on how to identify these students, make sure that they're coded in a system. We have to make sure that they are identified and that they're in the student information system so that we can provide support. When we pull those reports, we can go and say, okay, Smith Elementary has 15 homeless and 2 foster care students. We know who they are. We can provide support and reach out to those parents. But if we don't have this form, and parents don't, and caregivers don't fill it out correctly, a lot of times, you may not want to be, you may not want to disclose certain things. You might want to not let the school know
But honestly, the more you disclose, the more we can help. It's actually the opposite of that. We're not here to try to disrupt any of the living situations, we just want to support. So if you identify properly by filling out the form, we can assist the families, we can assist the students, we can kind of call in different supports to the campuses. We work with mental health providers that have relationships with the district that are allowed onto campuses and different things depending on the campus that the student attends. HIC is now broken down into different types of campuses, which I won't go into that, but some allow people on the campus and some don't. And our next form is just talking about all of the things. My main role as the foster care liaison is to ensure that they are enrolled. The biggest piece is, of course, getting enrollment, even when you're missing documents if you're missing different papers or different documents, by law, they must enroll immediately. Immediate enrollment means you walk through the door and you get enrolled immediately, even if you're missing birth certificates, education records where we don't know what grade, we don't know what level, we don't know any of these things. The district has a way to piece all that together. If they came from Texas, we can get T-Rex so we can get the records. That school can get the records. I can call the education specialist and get the court records to the school. There are different ways that we work to piece it together. And if a student is coming to us from another region or another state or is undocumented, an undocumented minor, which we're getting a lot of those, we literally enroll them with what we have, what they came into the country with, and then they assess them. But the main thing is to enroll, and so we try to make sure that our kids are enrolled immediately, and they're identified so that we can step in and support where needed. We also, as I stated, a lot of the situations that are here, and especially relative to the parents, it could be considered homeless as well. And that's any student that lacks a fixed, adequate nighttime residence. And that could be a grandparent raising a grandchild. There's no official, we have physical custody, but you don't have any type of legal documentation. And that's okay, because that student is considered an unaccompanied minor, technically, and they qualify under the McKinney-Vento Act as a homeless unaccompanied youth. That simply means that the student has all the rights that every other student at the school has. We make sure that they are enrolled, that they have the transportation they need, the uniform, supplies, all the support needed to help them succeed in school. As I was stating, the McKinney-Vento Act is key to our program. It ensures that we let the families know their rights, that even though they may not be in a stable setting, it's considered unstable even if they're with grandma or auntie, because like someone said earlier, at any moment a parent can come back and say, okay, I want my child back. And so it will disrupt that student. So we make sure that these children are identified so that if they want to return to those schools, they have a right to return to their school of origin, so at least their education is not disrupted. The main thing with McKinney-Vento is educational stability. So the heart of the McKinney-Vento Act is educational stability. And again, the same form is used for homeless and foster care. You would put, the living situation, what led to it, and then Part C, the services and support that we can provide. And anybody can fill out the student residency questionnaire. It could be submitted by a teacher at a school who sees a student is sleeping and coming to school not smelling properly or clothes are dirty, and they notice something's going on with Johnny, he's sleeping at his desk. They became homeless and didn't disclose to the school, but teachers can see. A teacher can fill out the form, a counselor, a clerk at the school, a community member can call and say, hey, there's a family, it can be discreet, but at least we can then reach out to the family and offer additional support. But that form can be filled out by campus staff, and a lot of parents don't want to disclose their living situations. They're very private, they fear, retaliation for that. And so sometimes, people at the school disclose and the parent doesn't know, but at least if they move around, we can keep getting them transportation. They may not know how they're getting that transportation and how that's working, and they may not need to know because they might be overwhelmed with their living situation and life problems, but at least their child can stay in school, can get lunch, breakfast and lunch at school, and at least during the day they can have a stable environment. And so, you can go to the next one. Unaccompanied youth is big for us now. As you know, we're getting a lot of unaccompanied minors. But they have a right, even if they don't have documentation, they have a right to enroll and register and participate in all school activities just like any non-homeless student. And so what that means is that They can withdraw themselves, they can enroll themselves, everything is on their own. They don't require a parent or guardian, but we do identify these students a little differently because they are unaccompanied. We try to give them additional support. Our program this year, we deployed devices to those students, the 11th and 12th graders, free phones. They have all the resources that the students need on them. They have to be homeless, identified as homeless, and we give these devices. We pay for them for 2 years, including a hotspot. They can do all their schoolwork. They can do, and it helps us with attendance, and it helps us at least know where they are. They don't have to give them back. And it's kind of a program that we've adopted at HIC. I think we're the first district in the area to do this program. I think Chicago has done it. And so here in Texas, HIC, we've done it. And so we've deployed it to all of the identified 10th and 11th grade, mostly 11th grade students this current school year. And school of origin transportation, as I mentioned, this is big for foster, kinship placements, homeless, because this makes sure that no matter where you move, even if you're out of district and the school is in HIC or vice versa, you could be in Cyber, you could be in Klein, you could be in Humboldt, Fort Bend. That child is entitled to school of origin transportation, so you should know that you don't have to worry about that. As long as these students identified, the campuses work together, the districts collaborate to ensure that that transportation is in place. That is something that a lot of campuses might not know about, but they have a district liaison, they have a foster and a homeless liaison who is supposed to enforce and assist you with all of these issues. You shouldn't be struggling to do this on your own. This is our contact page. If you want a QR code, you can take a picture of that. It goes to a information page, but also there's my email address, Lisa Jackson's email address, and our homeless and foster care team that we assist our homeless and foster care students. Our office is located at Rock Elementary. It's an old school that we now turned into the Student Engagement Center, and now it's a Sunrise Center. So, but the site is still the same, 1417 Houston Avenue, Monday through Friday. We're there every day, all day. We don't require an appointment, and if you need assistance, please feel free to come by, and we'll be able to assist you, give you information. We have an on-site boutique at this center. We have English classes, we have computer classes for our parents and grandparents. We have our grandparents raising grandchildren at William Moya. We host the meetings there, the support group meetings there. We also have a Sunrise Boutique. Like I said, it's like a free resale shop for our parents and for our students. In addition to the uniforms that we provide that they have to qualify for, it's a free boutique. We also have the Sunrise Market in collaboration with the food bank. We have a market, people come get food. We do 3 monthly food distributions. So we're trying to do a lot of different things every month. It's ongoing. Every month we have different activities. We have a calendar. All of that is on HIC's website under Sunrise Centers. You can see all the centers, and you can actually see what's going on at every center. And you can locate the center nearest you if you have any children in HIC. Please feel free to come by. If you want your contact to your district liaison, if you're from a different district, I'll be happy to connect you, okay? So again, thank you for your time. Thanks, Moya, for allowing me to come. And also, just want to touch on the autism. I think the connection was that we wanted to show that in collaboration with special ed and other departments, we can help link the parents to the campus special education chair, who will then take over and get those assessments needed, whether it's a student who never got identified as an autistic student, even though we know something is definitely going on with the student. How does that happen? It happens by attendance. If a student does not attend school for at least 30 days consecutively, they won't qualify for that assessment, which is why a lot of our homeless and foster care students don't get assessed because they don't attend to qualify for assessments, for district assessments. So our goal is to make sure they attend school, make sure that the assessment is requested, but if the attendance isn't there, they're not going to qualify, and that's something that everybody needs to be aware of. You have to have regular attendance to qualify for these assessments, and then the SPED chair will contact all of the other key stakeholders for that campus, the principal, the social worker, the nurse, the teachers, who all needs to be at the table to come assess that child. So, and then, of course, working with an ABA center, it kind of helps give additional support to students. And it's highly recommended that parents, use both the district supports as well as external supports to kind of bring that child to, to where they need to be in ongoing support. So
like to thank Dr. Glenda Montalvo with ABA Texas Applied Analysis Center. All right, so we are now down to our last panel, peer support. So if we can have Ms. Burleson come on up. And we only have 10 minutes. And then after, and then after Ms. Burleson, we'll then going to conclude our conference and powerhouse through the raffles. So we still have a lot of things to raffle off. And so we'll just save the raffles for after we do our last panel. And then we'll raffle and close out. So I would like to introduce Ms. Burleson. Ms. Burleson is a kinship grandmother that adopted her granddaughter. And she is going to, just kind of talk to us about her experience, just kind of give some guidance on, her experience and share her experience and any jewels that you can drop, Ms. Burleson, to encourage any kinship caregivers for what you learned along your journey.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Liddell Burleson. I'm glad to be here with you all. I don't know how much I can share with you, but I will say this. I was very fortunate enough. I was very fortunate enough going through when I went through this to I have a lot of good people. A lot of good people. And I listened because I didn't know. I had no idea. Because I've been talking to you my journey. A little bit about my daughter. She moved here to become a parent. My son was away. So this was supposed to be for her, but the Lord saw things differently, and she passed away in November of 2020. So I didn't have time to think. I had moved. And I was so fortunate enough that everyone around me, the people around me helped me get through the process. And then I'm older lady. So I thought I'd already raised her her other three daughters. And she was going to graduate this year, so I'm thinking I had to drop off again. So I'm starting all over again. Then I realized I wasn't by myself. So the only thing I can tell you all, if you are a grandparent, fortunate enough to go through this program, I pray that you are blessed to be associated with the people that I was associated with, because it made my journey a lot easier. All right. And you can do it. It's going to get a little, but stick with it. Talk to whomever that place you with, or whoever you chose to deal with. Let them know what you need. Because you're going to need things that you didn't think you were going to need, because it's different. I kind of thought maybe I would take my ways as I raised my children, and then like I said, I had her sisters, and I thought I could do that. But it's a different ballgame. It's a different ballgame. I had to do things differently with her, but it all worked out for me because I had good people around. That's right. So all I can do is that suggest to you, if you have that, the programs and the resources that can be provided to you, utilize it, because you definitely it'll make things a lot easier.
Here in the room is here in the room, and that's why we have these people here and not these people who are trying to solicit and sell things to our families, because we want that support. That's what it's all about. It's also with Ms. Burleson, I'll put on the spot real quick. Ms. Burleson is a business owner, so she has an editorial service. So I told her I would, promote her business, because I wanted to thank her for, just sharing her time, but just to show, even for those grandparents or nurses that do want to have their own business and do their own things, you can still do it. You can still do it. A lot of kinship caregivers have shared with me, that, their life is put on hold, whenever their relatives were placed with them, and they had to stop and put all their attention and efforts into raising the kids, but that doesn't mean give up. That doesn't mean give up. So you can still go back and do the things that you want to do, that, if you wanted to start a business, or go back to school, whatever it is that you wanted to do. That doesn't mean that life has to stop. It just means that it takes a pause for a moment, just till you get the kids settled, and everything all worked out, and go back to that. So then that you can have something to leave to the kids. And they can, can continue to flourish and, invest in whatever it is that you've invested in for them. So thank you again, Ms. Burleson. So let's give Ms. Burleson a round of applause. All right, so we are now about to powerhouse through these raffles. We didn't get a chance to, to get them in between as we thought we were, but that's okay. We made it. We have a lot of stuff to raffle off, so we are now ready to do the raffles. Oh, and vote. Voting on the tables. Okay, yes. Did everyone get a chance to vote? Did everyone get a chance to vote? Okay, if you did not get a chance to vote, that's what your index card is on the table. So if you can, just kind of look at the tables really quickly and see which one you think is decorated the best according to the carnival theme, and just write it and drop it into the box that Moya is taking around. Okay, yes, and the Felton is also passing out the survey, so you can please fill out the surveys as well.
And all you can have on your own table. We don't want no election interference. You want a clean vote. You don't want to steal a vote. Don't steal the vote. 2 green for green. Everyone voted? Rachel, you put it on. Okay, you finished your vote?
All right, so let's powerhouse through these raffles. We have 2 raffles. We have going to do the raffle here, and then Buckner also you went to their table for their raffle as well. All right, Mrs. Gloria. Willie, is she here? Gloria? All right, come on down. Hey! All right. All right.
I didn't see him. Look again.
We have Buckner come up so we can do
Oh, yeah, up there.
Okay. Then next,
give it to Nakasha.
Robin Welch, come on up.
Well, how you want to cut it? How you want? They gotta get inside. How you want to cut it?
You can click this top.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Florita, Flortilla. F-L-O-R-T-I-L-A, Flortilla. Okay, Miss Flortilla, come on up. And even after you do get your raffle, we still have other things to raffle off. Sorry. All right, next, Darlene, Sandy. Darlene, Sandy, come on down, Miss Darlene. Come on down. Next, Karen McGee. Karen McGee. Is Karen all right? Come on up, Miss McGee. Come on down. Okay, Dora. Is Miss Dora still here? Miss Dora. Miss Terry Green. Come on down, Miss Green. Come on, Miss Green. Tanisha Max. Tanisha Max. Okay. Come on down. Come on down, Miss Max. Max. Okay, come on down, Miss Maddie. Okay, Vicky Russell. Vicky Russell still here. Vicky Russell. All right, Carl Goodwin. Carl Goodwin. Come on down. Goodwin. Come on down. All right, Kimberly Goodwin. Now, how good? All right, then we got one more, Brenda Davis. All right, and one more raffle that we have Buckner. If you visited their table, so if you have your blue ticket, does everybody still have their blue ticket? You have your blue ticket. Okay, now I'm going to call the blue raffle ticket. The blue raffle ticket. Okay, and this is for the last raffle that we're doing. So now we're looking at the blue ticket. Okay, so if you have the blue ticket number 047673. Thank you. Okay, come on down. Okay, so these are okay. 047669. 047669.
Oh, she said, don't you believe that? We gonna have some for that, baby.
All right, 047680.
Hey! All right.
0680.
All right.
Okay, man, on over there to Butler.
Oh, Butler.
Okay, 07676. 07676.
Okay, we want
All right, 047678. 047678. All right, 047679. 047679. All right, come on now, all right, then next 047678.
Okay, 047671. 047671. Let me get you there. All right. You got it. Go ahead. The winner of the table is Dear Mixed Girl. So let's get Dear Mixed Girl down in the crowd. And if you have not stopped by their table, please make sure to do so. And we want to allow them to come up and speak to you all and close it out. Dear Mixed Girl.
Okay, let's give them their attention. She won her 2-minute commercial. Take it away, ma'am. All right.
Quiet, please.
Speak up, Kayla.
I'm Dr. Kayla, and I'm the creator and owner of Dear Mixed Girl. If you are a person that has ever experienced bullying, if you have ever felt like you have to fit into someone's box or under someone else's standards, I work with girls that are between 12 and 18 who are biracial, as well as working with their parents. We talk about things like self-awareness. We talk about what it means to be okay with all of who you are. We talk about what it means to be a leader in your own right. For anyone who is seeking support, just know it is okay to ask for help. Just like all of us know, it takes a village to raise a child. If you don't have all the answers, that is totally okay. When we take the time to try to understand someone else's pathway, we make a difference. Just one small thing we do can change a child's entire life. Dear Mixed Girl was created on the foundation of just truly understanding that we are all so very different. Cultural diversity is something that is around us every single day. When we are able to stand in our own shoes, when we are able to walk into a room and say, yes, this is me, take it or leave it, everything changes. If you are an adult, you understand just as well what it means to have experienced challenges in your life. It may look a little different for a mixed girl, but you understand that we all have challenges, and that makes things so much realer. Dear Mixed Girl started with a series of letters. I wrote to a younger version of myself, telling over and over again of my story. Dear Mixed Girl, it's okay to wear braids in your hair. Dear Mixed Girl.
Uh-oh. We need the mic back. Talk louder, Dr. Kayla.
So I'll walk around. So Dear Mixed Girl letters are all about talking to the individual, helping girls to know it's okay to express your truth. It's okay to acknowledge that your ancestors look a little different than the people around you. It's so important to love on yourself. And I want everyone that I encounter to know that I know that walk. I understand that journey. As a parent, you know how important it is to find someone to support your child, especially when they're dealing with challenges. So I'm here to support all those people. I'm always interested in reaching out to other people and making sure they have a voice and they understand that voice can be heard and it is important. So that's what I do. I'm
We still have more.
Thank you, Lord. So much information to where it's well needed. Thank you, Father God, for the love that was shown. We thank you for the fellowship that you're showing. We thank you for all the information that was passed forward to us. Now let us use this information in such a way that we will help the children in our lives, we will help the parents of the children in our lives, but most of all, we'll be able to help even a friend going through the same situation. Now, Father God, guide us as you did here. You kept us safe. And as we leave here, Father, take us back to our destinations the same way you brought us. Safe, sound, empowered with information, knowing that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Let us all signify by saying, Amen. Amen.
Okay, I ain't forget about you.
Dr. Valerie. Yeah. Mine, they probably will.